19 and 25. He also says it was just a question of choice. I have held the ratio in Bijoy Emanuel squarely covers the case. One thing which was topmost for me was education of the girl child. Viewers, when such a verdict comes, the judges have roughly 5 minutes to give out their viewpoint. It's very clear there is a split verdict. It's very clear they're going to be giving out another 2 to 3 utterances in why they have come out with this verdict, and that's exactly what they are trying to do here, where they've referred and they've deferred in this, and both the judges are saying that split verdict is there in this case. Justice Gupta has dismissed the petition, but Justice Dhulia says only for the education of the girl child. He believes that the Karnataka High Court order and the government order need to be quashed, as well as the Karnataka High Court. What does this really mean? Viewers, after the government order had been challenged in the Karnataka High Court, the Karnataka High Court had dismissed that challenge and stated that hijab is not an essential practice in Islam. They'd also stated that this particular matter should go to the Supreme Court. They did not make these utterances on whether hijab is an essential religious practice or not. They were it's the top court that had to be coming to a decision. But today, as Justice Gupta has dismissed this and given grounds for this, we really have to see. Justice Gupta has also now said, in view of the divergent opinions, let the matter be placed before the Chief Justice of India, who is going to be deciding on how this matter needs to proceed for future directions. Advocate Ijaz Makbool and Tushar Mehta in the courtroom, they are now joining the lawyers in wishing Justice Gupta pleasant retirement. Remember, Justice Gupta demits the office tomorrow. Viewers, as I can say, the hearing in the Supreme Court is now complete. The order pronouncement, I would say, is complete. Let's break this down for our viewers. Once again, split verdict in the Supreme Court. Justice Gupta upholds the government order dated 5th Feb 2022. Justice Dhulia believes he's deferring from it and says that the education of the girl child is more important, and therefore he's deferred and said the government order was not correct. Niranjan, it's going to possibly be now the Chief Justice of India that's going to be looking at this case and going to be deciding what needs to be done for appropriate directions. But the big news coming in is today there's no finality to the entire hijab question and the row. We have to see how this proceeds forward. Is a larger bench going to be deciding this? Is a 3-judge bench going to be deciding this? As all our friends continue to be with us, lawyers are quickly going to be joining us to give an analysis. Once the complete judgment is out, we're going to be speaking. But Niranjan, today's split verdict shows that there is no answers that are clearly going to come out on the hijab row ban. Okay, let me also say, as I'm going to try and go across to Sambhav also and Niranjan, who's there, the split verdict is in light of the divergent opinions. The matter will be placed before the Chief Justice for appropriate directions. Let's quickly tell our viewers what happened in the Supreme Court. In a matter of minutes, the hijab judgment is there. It's going to be the Chief Justice of India who's going to be hearing the matter and going to be taking a decision on what needs to happen. Who is this case going to go to? I also want to tell our viewers that as it's the last days before the retirement of Justice Gupta, he had pronounced his judgment and had upheld this. The Supreme Court, as they were hearing Justice Dhulia and Justice Gupta, was given out details as the bench assembled. The first thing that was known is there is a split verdict. Then Justice Gupta said, in my order, there are 11 questions I framed. He then said that I have answered all the questions against the appeal. His verdict upholds the hijab ban verdict of the Karnataka High Court, whereas Justice Dhulia allows the appeals and sets aside the judgment of the Karnataka High Court. Justice Dhulia says that the main thrust of my judgment is going to be Niranjan and Shravan. The High Court took a wrong path. It's a matter of choice and Article 14 and 19. So on the basis of that, he said, I needed to understand what is most critical and important for the education of the girl child. Let me first go across to Sambhav, who's also joining us from the Supreme Court. Sambhav, quickly tell us, what was the atmosphere in the Supreme Court like? A split verdict coming from the top court.
Who have come out and Sambhav has just gone there to the lawyer who has come out here, and we will just go to the lawyer because after the decision there are so many lawyers who have come here. Let me go across to the lawyers.
It has been pronounced today. It is a split judgment. It is a split judgment. Honorable Justice Hemant Gupta has quashed the GOs of the Karnataka government and he has dismissed the appeals. wherein Justice Gulia, he has deferred and he has allowed the appeals. He has allowed all the appeals. And the 3 points where he has allowed the appeals are, he has emphasized on the Bijoy manual judgment of the Supreme Court, and further he has left this issue to the lady. He has left it on his choice. Lady's choice, Justice Gulia has emphasized that the choice has been left to the lady. Whatever she wants to wear, she can wear. And the third thing which he has emphasized in this judgment is that he has emphasized on the education of the girl child. He has said how the girls in the villages and how in the girls in the remote areas they work. They have to assist their families. Then they have ultimately they go to the school. So it's very important for the girl child to have her education. So he has emphasized on the education of the thing which he has emphasized in this judgment is that he has emphasized on the education of the girl child. He has said how the girls in the villages and how in the girls in the remote areas they work. They have to assist their families. Then they have ultimately they go to the school. So it's very important for the girl child to have her education. So he has emphasized on the education of the girl. He has emphasized on her choice, and he has depended on the Bijoy manual judgment, which has upheld this practice where a lady can put whatever covering. I appeared. One of the petitioner was Charanjit Kaur, in which she was a Sikh lady. She was saying that when I have this choice, then other girls and other ladies and other ladies from the various communities, they should have all this choice also to cover their heads while they are going to schools or wherever or which place they are going to. So, my name is Aftab Ali Khan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This
This ultimately has been referred to the CJI for constitution of the larger bench. जी आज का जजमेंट आज का जो जजमेंट था हिजाब का, बहुत दिन से जिसके ऊपर इंतजार था, वो आज जज ने कोर्ट ने प्रोनाउंस कर दिया है और इसके अंदर स्प्लिट जजमेंट आया है. इसमें ऑनरेबल जस्टिस हेमंत गुप्ता साहब ने उसको जो है अपील को जो है उन्होंने डिसमिस करा है और जीओ वगैरह जो थे कर्नाटका गवर्नमेंट के उसको अपहेल करा है. लेकिन जस्टिस गुलिया ऑनरेबल जस्टिस गुलिया ने डिफरेंट व्यू लिया है इसके अंदर, इस मैटर के अंदर, और उन्होंने इस मैटर के अंदर उसको अपील्स को अलाउ करा है और उन्होंने 3 पॉइंट्स के ऊपर इसको मेन एम्फेसिस दिया है. उन्होंने एक तो बिजॉय मैनुअल का जो जजमेंट है सुप्रीम कोर्ट का उस पर रेफर करा है, और उसके बाद उन्होंने ये जो चॉइस है जो अपना सिर के ऊपर किसी को हिजाब रखना है या किसी को कवर करना है, ये लेडी का अपना चॉइस है, तो इस पॉइंट के ऊपर भी उन्होंने एम्फेसिस दिया है. और तीसरा पॉइंट जो इम्पोर्टेंट उन्होंने बोला है कि जो बच्चों की तालीम और एजुकेशन का मामला है वो बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है, और बच्चों की तालीम के लिए हमें ऐसा कोई काम या ऐसी कोई चीज जिसमें उनकी एजुकेशन के ऊपर रुकावट आए तो उस चीज का उन्होंने एम्फेसिस दिया है कि ऐसा कोई काम जो है उसके खिलाफ है, बच्चे की एजुकेशन के खिलाफ है. अब आगे कोर्ट ने इस मैटर को अब आगे के लिए रेफर कर दिया है. वो उसके अंदर अब लार्जर बेंच के लिए रेफर करने के लिए उन्होंने आगे भेज दिया है इसको, बिकॉज ये एक स्प्लिट जजमेंट है, तो आगे ये डिफरेंट बेंच अब आगे इसको सुनेगी. सर एक बार अपना नाम भी बोल दीजिए. मेरा नाम आफ्ताब अली खान.
All right, as Aftab Alam, lawyer, now speaks about what's happened inside the courtroom. He says there's a possibility that the case will now go to a larger bench. We're still waiting for the Chief Justice. Ijaz Maqbool on our screens. Let's hear him.
Girl child faces a lot of problems while they are being sent to the schools and colleges, and their right to education is more important than wearing or not wearing a hijab.
Sir, but this also means that now it will go to a larger bench. Will it go to a 3-judge bench, or is it going
no,
to be
now
like
the operative part of the order says that it has to be placed before the Honorable Chief Justice of India, and he is going to form a new bench. Either it will be a larger bench or it could be even 3 judges bench.
सर, जो कर्नाटक हाई कोर्ट का फैसला था वो लागू अभी रहेगा वैसे ही?
नहीं, अभी तो there is a divergent view between the 2 honorable judges, and therefore until the matter is referred to a larger bench or it is taken up by another bench, that could
स्टेटस था कर्नाटक हाई कोर्ट में, वही अभी एक तरीके से वही है, क्योंकि हो ही नहीं पाया कुछ.
हाँ, there is a divergent views expressed by the 2 honorable judges, and therefore the matter has to be sent to a larger bench or to another bench.
बिल्कुल जो वकील
All right, viewers, as we stay with our lawyers who continue joining us from the Supreme Court of India. I want to tell our viewers that as the split verdict has come out, Justice Gupta has stated in this case that he wants this case and the government order to be upheld. However, Justice Dhulia says for certain reasons he wants the government order to be quashed, as well as the Karnataka High Court. I want to once again replay the reactions coming in from the Supreme Court lawns. We've just heard right now Ijaz Maqbool speaking, who has now stated, who as the petitioner's lawyer has given out concisely what has happened. I'd like our reporters to get Ijaz Maqbool separately also to be understanding what he stated. Aftab Alam also spoke out. The petitioners have now stated that they are going to be looking at what the Chief Justice orders. So what are the options now in this case?
सरकार सेक्शन 131 के तरह यह रेगुलेट या डेलीगेट करके हिजाब पर बैन का ऑर्डर पारित कर सकती थी, नहीं कर सकती थी। ये हिजाब एसेंशियल प्रैक्टिस का पार्ट है, नहीं है। और जो आर्टिकल 25, 19, 14 सबका हवाला देते उन्होंने 11 क्वेश्चन फॉर्मुलेट किए हैं और उन सारे क्वेश्चंस का जो आंसर उन्होंने दिया है यह कहते हुए कि इस आधार पर एसएलपी स्वीकार योग्य नहीं है और उन्होंने खारिज किया है। जबकि जस्टिस धुलिया ने आर्टिकल 25 और 19(1) के आधार पे ही सारे एसएलपी को अलाउ किया है।
बिल्कुल बहुत साफ।
Viewers, one by one, we can see several advocates walking into the Supreme Court. As the breaking news comes in from the top court of the country, there's a split verdict. Justice Gupta says the government order was correct. However, Justice Dhulia has quashed it, setting it aside. Let me also go across now to lawyers who spoke. There's Ijaz Maqbool who'd spoken out right now, stating the options ahead, and as well as others. I'm trying to go across to also our lawyers. All right, Sambhav is going to be getting Ijaz Maqbool. If we can go back to the Supreme Court lawns, see what's happening there and get a sense of what the lawyers are going to say, because it's a split verdict from the top court of the country. This is not going to be seen as a conclusion. Therefore, the Chief Justice will now make a choice whether this case goes to another 2-judge bench or whether it goes to a 3-judge or a constitution bench for a finality to be achieved, as the law of the land has to be stated in this case. Let me once again go back to the Supreme Court lawns where Sambhav is joining us. Ijaz Maqbool is currently there, Shravan, with him. He's a senior lawyer who's appeared in the case for the petitioners in this case, and very correctly he said that the options ahead are going to be whether this case goes to a 2-judge bench or whether it goes to a larger bench, Shravan.
Well, in fact, the matter is now going to be decided by the Chief Justice of India. But just a quick recap before we just go back to the Supreme Court lawns, as we are getting in those reactions for all our viewers who are tuning in. There is, as Rhythm was pointing out, no finality to this entire verdict. Divergent opinions, as Rhythm was pointing out. Justice Hemant Gupta's verdict upholds the hijab ban verdict of the Karnataka High Court. Remember, the Karnataka High Court also went into the details of whether at all hijab is intrinsic to Islam and the fact that whether there is a need to it. Also, Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia allows all the appeals and sets aside the judgment of the Karnataka High Court. Net, what does this essentially mean? This goes to the Chief Justice of India. It is the Chief Justice of India who's going to be deciding whether this is going to be a larger bench, a 3-judge bench, or more than that.
Let's just see, it's there's a split verdict. There's a differing opinion between the two honorable judges. Justice Hemant Gupta has made certain issues. He has framed 12 or 13 issues, and he has held that the order passed by the GO of the government of Karnataka and the order passed by the Honorable High Court was correct. Justice Dhulia respectfully differs with his opinion, and he has based his judgment on the ground that a girl child faces a lot of problems while going to schools and colleges. She does the chores of her house and before she joins the college and school, and therefore the court has held, and he has allowed all the petitions, set aside the GO passed by the government of Karnataka and set aside the order passed by the Honorable High Court of Karnataka.
Now the question is, Justice Gupta said, let the matter go to the CJI.
No, the the operative part of the order, which is of both the honourable judges, it has gone. The matter will be placed before the Honourable Chief Justice of India for a new bench to be formed. It may be 3 honourable judges, or it could be a bench of 5 honourable judges. Though we had contended before this division bench that this is a matter which requires consideration by a constitution bench, because it raises an important question of constitutional law for the first time, and it has to be examined by a bench of five honourable judges under Article 145(3) of the Constitution.
Will the ban remain as it is in Karnataka, or what implications and other things will be right now?
No, the order of the High Court would still remain till the matter is taken up by a larger bench, and unless there's a stay granted by a larger bench or a new bench, that remain in Karnataka would continue.
So when Justice Dhulia meant धार्मिक अनिवार्यता पर नहीं जाना चाहिए था हाई कोर्ट को, what does it actually mean?
What he meant was that the question whether hijab is an essential part of the religion of Muslims, religious practice or not, that question was not necessary, because here it was a question of not allowing children, the students in schools and colleges wearing hijab, and they face so much of difficulty. So that issue of going into the essential practice was not required at all. That the circular should have been tested on the ground that it violates the fundamental rights of those children who are going to the school, and that was good enough to set aside the circular.
Now, my last question is going to be: the protests are going on. Protests are going on in Iran. On the other hand, we are pleading for hijab at the apex court. How do you see this? I mean, is it so important? The hijab is so important that
you see, let's not talk about other countries, and let's not get into this today. Let us only concentrate on what is. See, ours is a secular constitution. Our constitution permits everybody to do what there's a right to freedom of expression under Article 19(1)(a), and there's a right to life under 21. The fundamental rights are more important than these of yours, that Iran mein aisa ho raha hai aur wahan aisa ho raha hai. They are in fact not secular countries. They have their own problems, but our country is governed by a constitution where this right is given to every citizen of this country.
Just one thing I want to add on here. I mean, we are a secular country, but having said that, we cannot deny the dress code in the schools. How do you see this?
The children are not saying that they will not wear the school dress. They are, in fact, you will be seeing many Supreme Court lawyers coming with their coat and their gown, but they also wear a hijab above them. So their scarf above in their this thing, and therefore the girl child in those schools are wearing their uniforms, and therefore they should not be banned from that. That was our contention. There's a differing opinion between the two judges.
So as Ijaz Mahmool put out in front of us that there was a split verdict in the apex court, and he is vociferously putting that the hijab, wearing of hijab should continue by the Muslim girls in the schools, giving Article 19 and 21 the fundamental rights as the argument being put by him. On the other hand, when I questioned about on one hand there are protests going on in Iran, and on the other hand we are arguing for hijab in our country in the top court. For this, he said he said that India being a secular country, and the girls here should have the right to wear whatever they want. And when I asked about the uniform in the dress code in the school, he said, that cannot take away the Article 19 and 21 of the Indian Constitution, the power which Article 19 and 21 of Constitution gives to the Muslim girls in the country. With video journalist Shah, this is Sambhav Sharma from the Supreme Court of India, Delhi.
All right, as Sambhav is speaking, I'm sure he doesn't know that he's on live. So I'm just going to go across now. If my director can guide me, if I can go to Prajwal, who's joining us from Udupi, Shavan, and he's telling us that barricades are being erected on the either side of the road. He's also giving us this quick update that the SP is overseeing the security arrangements at the college. So if I can just go across once to Prajwal before we go across to our guests. Prajwal also saying he's speaking to the college management and residents near the college. So they are trying to ensure that there is no untoward incident that suddenly happens after the Supreme Court split verdict. Can we just go across to Prajwal for a minute, please? All right, as we are waiting with this, and I also want Kevin to give me some guests. Shravan, I want to come across to you. We're seeing quick action happening here. We've seen the Solicitor General was present inside the courtroom for the pronouncement of the judgment. That's also very rare. Usually when a judgment is pronounced, very rarely do senior advocates be there, and the top law officer was also there, showing the importance of this issue for the government. As we're going to stay there, we're also going to stay, Shravan, with those pictures of the protest that happened before in Udupi, where we saw after the aftermath of the government order dated 5th Feb 2022, how protests had broken out, and Tushar Mehta, the Solicitor General, told the courtroom this was a part of a larger conspiracy. PFI was trying to get this movement up in the social. All right, let me also go across now to Dr. Adesh Agarwal, who's now currently joining us, senior advocate, chairman of the All India Bar Association. Dr. Agarwal, a split verdict from the Supreme Court. Desh Ratan Nigam is also with us. I welcome the guests on the screen. Dr. Agarwal, first to you, how are you looking at the split verdict? What are the next options? And how soon do you think this entire case can reach a culmination?
You see, as a matter of fact, this was a wrong committed by Honorable Chief Justice of India while constituting this bench. The bench consisting of a judge, Justice Gupta, who is retiring. Chief Justice of India has not included in this bench Justice Abdul Nazir. You see, he's a judge from Muslim community. In Karnataka High Court also Muslim judge was.
Sir, before I let you go on, I just want to, I'm only interrupting you because we're trying to get in a sense of the judgment. I don't really want to have anything particularly being cast today as an aspersion on the judiciary that we respect and honor. And I'll ask you that question. But I just want to understand from Desh Ratan Nigam, what is the options?
Option will be now, it should go to Constitution bench, which should be 5 judges, which should also include Muslim judge. Because by having the end, when they have to decide in a hurry,
I want to go across on that point to Desh Ratan Nigam also here. Desh Ratan Nigam, you were also earlier seen, in this hijab verdict, what's been happening in the Supreme Court. The options before the Supreme Court, like Dr. Agarwal did tell us, is going to a larger bench. But seeing the viewpoints that had Desh Ratan Nigam been put forward by the Solicitor General, one, there was in Iran, there are these anti-hijab revolutions that have started. Two, they seem to be a part of a larger conspiracy by the now banned PFI. How quickly do you think we can get some culmination of an order?
In fact, Rhythm, that issue which the Solicitor General said was noted down by the Karnataka High Court in its judgment, that this was not a natural protest, but an orchestrated, manufactured protest and suddenly started. And then later we came to know that it was Campus Front of India, which was a part of it, part of PFI also, which has been banned now. Now it will all depend as and when it is constituted. The larger bench, which could be 3 judges bench, or it could be more, 5 judges bench also, but normally it could be 3 judges bench that can go into the question. But I don't see that this is happening so soon, because this requires complicated questions of facts and law, and that have to be gone. Because what Justice Dhulia noted was that whether this hijab was an essential practice of Islam or not, the High Court should not have gone into. But the fact remains, this was the argument addressed by the pro-hijab lawyers in the court. It was not the court's creation. So what happened was an argument which was put forth by the pro-hijab lawyers, and in the Supreme Court, they flip-flopped and went on to the fundamental rights, whether it's a part of fundamental rights and whether there can be reasonable restrictions or not. So those two aspects are there. And the education of a girl child, will hijab supersede the kitab, is a very fundamental question. And once again, let me point out, hijab was not banned. Simpliciter. It was not allowed in the classroom in deference to
बनना चाहिए, क्योंकि सरकार के पास अपना कोई विजन नहीं है. सरकार के पास अपना कोई टारगेट नहीं है मुल्क के लिए। सरकार को देखिए आप, मनमोहन सरकार से लेकर अब तक जो आर्थिक नीतियां हैं, जिस तरह से ये विफल हुए हैं और जिस तरह से इन्होंने सारी सरकारी संपत्तियों को नीलाम कर दिया है, बेच दिया है, निजी हाथों में दे दिया है, वो अपने आप में एक मिसाल है। ये इतना कर्जे में है सरकार। आज आरबीआई की रिपोर्ट आई थी कि 2035 तक अगर सरकार आज से मेहनत करना शुरू करे तो 2035 तक जाकर ये कर्जा कहीं ना कहीं मुक्त हो सकता है। लेकिन सरकार तो उस पर सोचना ही नहीं चाहती, सरकार तो उस पर देखना ही नहीं चाहती, क्योंकि सरकार ने अपने पूंजीपति दोस्तों को इतना बढ़ा दिया है, उनसे पैसा ले रही है, उनको दे रही है, वही काम चल रहा है। कर्जा ना देने की बात सोचते हैं, ना आगे देश को बढ़ाने की बात सोचते हैं। हाँ, मीडिया के अंदर, सोशल मीडिया पर एक ऐसा हवा खड़ा कर दिया है कि साहब हमारा देश जो है विश्व गुरु बन गया है, हर आदमी कर्जे में डूबा हुआ है और हम विश्व गुरु हैं। ये तो ऐसा हुआ कि साहब हम जो है कहते हैं ना कि वो एक भोजपुरी मिसाल है कि साहब जिंदगी झंडवा फिर भी घमंडवा।
Okay, as that reaction comes in on, from someone who's speaking out on the verdict, I also want to go across to the Supreme Court lawns where Harsha is speaking to a lawyer. I also want to tell our viewers that we're also getting reactions. Aneri is also joining us and telling us that there are several. Aneri says that she's speaking about the education minister in Bangalore.
ಸ್ತ್ರೀ ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿರುವಂತ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣದ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಸುವ್ಯವಸ್ಥಿತವಾಗಿರೋದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಜಡ್ಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂತ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕಿತ್ತು. ಆದರೆ ಇದು ಸ್ಪ್ಲಿಟ್ ವರ್ಡಿಕ್ಟ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ, ಹೈಯರ್ ಬೆಂಚ್ ಹೋಗಿದೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ಮುಂದಿನ ಜಡ್ಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬರೋ ತನಕ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ
clearly looking at it and seeing this, we welcome this split judgment, and we will also be thinking about what will be the next course of legal action that will be seen.
ವ್ಯಾಲಿಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಶಾಲಾ ಕಾಲೇಜುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ
the high court judgment will remain valid.
ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ರೂಲ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಯಾವುದೇ ತರವಾದಂತ ರಿಲಿಜಿಯಸ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್
according to the Karnataka Education Act and the rule,
ಅದರಿಂದ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತ ಜಡ್ಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್
hijab will not be permitted inside the classrooms.
ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಶಾಲೆಗಳು ನಡೆಯುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು.
All the government schools and colleges across Karnataka will go in accordance with the judgment which has been passed.
We welcome whatever the judgment we have received today from the Supreme Court. But we had expected a better judgment because, as you know, that throughout the world, women are demanding not to wear hijab, not to wear burqa. But there is a split judgment in the Supreme Court today. So whatever the Karnataka High Court had given the order, that is valid as on today. So we are going to follow the rules which are framed according to Karnataka Education Act in Karnataka. Definitely three-bench Supreme Court is going to think everything on the demand of the students and the order of the Karnataka Education Department. And we expect a better judgment there.
You said hijab will be henceforth banned. Will continue the ban?
Yeah, the ban of hijab will continue. As you know that Karnataka Education Act and rule does not permit any religious items inside the class. So we are very clear that no student can wear hijab inside the class.
So are you disappointed with not getting complete verdict because it has gone to a larger bench, or you expected this?
The matter is going to continue.
The matter will continue.
No, I had expected that, as I said, worldwide ladies are demanding they will not wear hijab, they will not wear burqa. even in the countries like Iran and Iraq, and countries like Switzerland, etc., ladies are demanding their right to, about particularly wearing hijab and burqa. In light of that, I had expected that the Supreme Court judgment may uphold the Karnataka High Court verdict. But I have not been disappointed because, as you know, that Supreme Court is Supreme Court. Anyone who believes in democratic setup has to accept the judgment of the Supreme Court, and we have accepted.
So finally, sir, the Congress was talking about this hijab row since January. Now the court verdict has come. Will you ask the opposition also to let this topic go away and not make it political?
No, actually, as you know that, Congress always fight elections not on the development issues or the people issues. They always want to fight on emotional issues, particularly as one particular religion is most emotional. They want to concentrate on that votes, and they have done not now. Since 1947 up to today. Why did they brought Article 370? To see that one particular community votes will be polarized towards Congress. The special benefits which has been given. As you know, there are very small minority communities in the country, but one or two particular community has been taken, considered as minority and given the special status to them. But there are many small religions which are very minute, and they have not got anything when Congress is ruling. When Congress was ruling.
Is there any fresh circular that you will give? Or
No, our old circular is valid because the judgment of the Karnataka High Court is still valid. The same circular will continue.
So, final question. Any message to all the organizations which are supporting hijab, CFI, PFI, and before many other organizations are also supporting? Will you ask them also to be quiet and because respect the verdict?
It is an independent nation. Everyone has right to speak. And they will be always want to split this society, and they will be splitting. They are using hijab to split the society.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hindi mein bhi.
All right. As the Karnataka Education Minister says, as they welcome the judgment, he's also saying that the hijab ban will continue. We continue to be joined by Shavan Sen in our Delhi newsroom. We have Ashwin from Tiruvananthapuram. Prajwal, I want to come to you for a quick word. Like you were telling us, security beefing up at the very place where protests had erupted in February this year.
Absolutely, because even the SP of Udupi, Mr. Akshay, also spoke to Republic, and he clearly stated that these are precautionary measures, making sure that there will be no sort of untoward incidents. I want to show you as to how it has been beefed up, because Hoysala petrol van has been stationed right outside the college here. So clearly going on and looking at how things are going by, we are also seeing cops, some senior cops who have been deployed over here and make sure that there is no sort of untoward incident. And also the residents over here were also quite, they were quite they were worried about the entire fact whether there will be any sort of unrest in this particular region as well. So immediately, as soon as they went on and voiced out their opinion, there was also security personnel who were put outside the college. We can also see some barricades which have been put right in the middle of the road to make sure that there will be some smooth movement of traffic here, and people will not come in large numbers as well. And it is now being stated that large groups cannot be left to assemble in front of the college, because if more and more number of groups come and assemble in front of the college, there might be some sort of law and order problems over here. And the SP has stated that the entire cops, the cops in the region, all the
आगे यही उम्मीद है हमको कि न्याय होगा।
और आज का जो फैसला है उसके बारे में क्या कहना है सर, जो ये स्प्लिट वर्डिक्ट है?
तो उसमें भाई दो जजेस ने अपनी अपनी राय दी है। एक ने, जस्टिस गुप्ता ने ये तो नहीं बताया कि उन्होंने कि किस बिना पर अपील डिसमिस करने का प्रस्ताव रखा, लेकिन यह है कि वो तो उनका जजमेंट पढ़ के हमको पता चलेगा क्या सवाल उठते हैं, क्या संवैधानिक सवाल उठते हैं, ये उन्होंने हमको बताया। वो संवैधानिक प्रश्न 11 उन्होंने हमको पढ़ के सुनाए। जैसे धूलिया ने कहा कि उनके ख्याल से ये जो सवाल था वो धर्म और धर्म के लिए क्या एसेंशियल है उसका नहीं था। ये सवाल जो था वो शिक्षा के अधिकार का था, ये सवाल था फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन का, ये सवाल था धर्म के अधिकार का। और उन्होंने कहा कि जो उनके दिमाग में एक बात बहुत ज़्यादा जिसने उनके जजमेंट को इन्फ्लुएंस किया वो ये थी कि अभी जो भारत में जो बाल विद्यार्थी हैं, जो गर्ल स्टूडेंट्स हैं, उनकी क्या उनका जीवन हम इस जजमेंट से किसी तरह आसान कर रहे हैं, इस ऑर्डर से हम आसान कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि उस गर्ल चाइल्ड का, उस गर्ल स्टूडेंट का, उस शिक्षिका का जीवन जो है वो भारत में ऑलरेडी बहुत ज़्यादा मुश्किल है। तो उन्होंने कहा कि हम क्या उसके जीवन को आसान कर रहे हैं और मुश्किल कर रहे हैं, एक ये और उसमें एक सवाल लगा के कि वो हिजाब पहन के पढ़ने जा सकती है नहीं जा सकती। तो उन्होंने कहा कि इसलिए उन्होंने कहा कि उसकी शिक्षा के अधिकार के लिए उन्होंने ज़रूरी पाया कि ये जजमेंट और ये ऑर्डर सेटिस्फाइड किया जाए।
सर, अभी जो डेट आया तो अभी जो स्टेटस है कि आप लड़कियां हिजाब पहन के स्कूल कॉलेज नहीं जा सकती, तो स्प्लिट वर्डिक्ट के बाद भी क्या कभी कर्नाटक हाईकोर्ट का जो जजमेंट है वो मान्य रहेगा कि अभी क्या?
देखिए, अभी स्थिति यह है कि फिलहाल तो यथास्थिति बरकरार रहेगी, क्योंकि सुप्रीम कोर्ट से जो मामला है अभी भी पेंडिंग है और कोई नतीजा नहीं निकला है। तो यथास्थिति जो थी वो बरकरार रहेगी जब तक चीफ जस्टिस जो है बेंच कॉन्स्टिट्यूट नहीं करते, जो या तो इंटरिम ऑर्डर कोई पास करें या फिर सुनवाई करके फाइनल जजमेंट दें, तब तक तो यथास्थिति बरकरार रहेगी।
व्यक्ति को वैयक्तिक रूप से वो लोग देश सोचकर कभी नहीं लिया है, इलेक्शन देखकर ही लिया है। वह इलेक्शन के लिए एक कम्युनिटी का मत के लिए वह लोग सब बात करता है। मैं इस कांग्रेस को कुछ एडवाइस करने के लिए इच्छा नहीं करता है, मगर कांग्रेस का बात सुनकर उसका जीवन को कौन कौन खराब कर रहा है उसको मैं एडवाइस करने को इच्छा करता है। वह कांग्रेस का बात मत सुनो, पीएफआई का बात मत सुनो, एसएफआई का बात मत सुनो। आपका जीवन 99.9% छात्रों ने क्या निर्णय लेकर हमारा शाला और कॉलेज को आ रहा है, ऐसा ही आप भी आ जाओ, शिक्षण पूरा करो, आपका पैर के ऊपर आप खड़ा रहो।
सर, हम अभी भी देख रहे हैं कि तालिबान हो या फिर कहीं और कंट्रीज में हिजाब या फिर बुरखा के अगेंस्ट प्रोटेस्ट हो रहे हैं, तो आप उस पर क्या कहना चाहते हैं? आप किस तरह से देखते हैं, क्योंकि अभी भी कर्नाटक हाईकोर्ट का जो इंटरिम जजमेंट है वो अपहेल्ड हुआ है?
यही बोल रहे हैं ना मैं, कर्नाटक और पर्टिकुलरली इस देश का सोच ऐसा है, व्यक्ति का स्वातंत्र के बारे में हजारों साल से इस देश पूर्ण स्वातंत्र दे चुका था। इवन चिंतन में भी हम लोग इस मिट्टी किसी को कभी फोर्स किया नहीं है। ऐसे ही जीवन करना, इसी भगवान को मानना, इसी रूप से इसी होली बुक को मानना, ऐसा कभी भी इस मिट्टी का चिंतन है नहीं। इस कारण से पहले ही भारत में ऐसा सोच आ चुका था। अभी सारे वर्ल्ड इस सोच को, इसका सोच के बारे में वो लोग सोच कर प्रोटेस्ट कर रहा है। और हिजाब का बारे में, बुर्का के बारे में कर्नाटक का क्या बोला वही अभी प्रपंच बोल रहा है।
All right, let me first go across to Aneri, who's joining us from that press conference where the Education Minister was asked questions by Republic TV. Aneri, you put pointed, pertinent questions to him. Several channels there, but I must congratulate you because you were the only one to get in a word. If you can ask some more questions to him, or you can throw light on what is the important thing that he said. In fact, if he's still sitting there, you can also ask him now, how soon do we think that there could be a verdict? But, before I go across to Aneri, I'm also joined by others. We also have Ashwin and Prajwal with us and Shavan. Ashwin, I also want to ask you, this verdict, Justice Dhulia had spoken about, also from the lawns, I think Sambhav is going to get us Barun Sinha. So we're going to go across to Barun Sinha also any moment now from the Supreme Court halls. But before that, Ashwin, a question to you. Okay, let me first go across to Harsha, who's joining us from the Supreme Court lawns, where there's a lawyer, Barun Sinha, with her. Harsha, over to you.
New bench hears the matter and new bench gives its verdict. So now the judgment of Karnataka High Court will be affected only when the new bench gives its verdict on this. Today's verdict has no bearing on the High Court judgment.
One thing more, Varun sir. What were certain points in which Justice Dhulia and Justice Gupta differ? What were that certain points where both of them didn't agree?
You see, the basic, because if you look into the judgment, Justice Gupta had formulated 11 questions. All 11 questions are based on the pleadings plus arguments of both the sides. Whereas Justice Gupta read and he said that his entire judgment is based on 2 points, that is Article 19(1)(a) and Article 25. Whereas if you read the 11 questions, all the 11 questions of Justice Gupta also incorporate these 2 points which are formulated by Justice Dhulia for his judgment. And Justice Dhulia's judgment is based on this. So therefore, this is the basic difference between the judgment of Justice Gupta and judgment of Justice Dhulia. According to Justice Gupta, that this freedom of expression and freedom of religion is not absolute. It can be regulated by the state authority. Whereas Justice Dhulia says that it cannot be regulated, this is absolute. So this is the basic difference between the judgment of these two judges. So now we will have to wait for the judgment of the larger bench, which will be constituted by the Honorable the Chief Justice, and that may be a bench of 3 judges or maybe a bench of 5 judges. So we will have to await.
So one more thing, if we talk about uniform and to enforce the uniform in educational institution, we see that institution are the temple of education. How you see that uniform should be in the institutions, because apart from in spite of what religion one comes from, education is equal for everyone. How you see it?
You see, if you look at the preamble of our constitution, it says it is a secular state. And if you look at the entire fundamental rights, it gives the color of the secularism. In view of that, the state government is well within power to regulate the affairs of the schools, colleges and university, so that the religious point of view does not reflect among the students. And therefore, judgment of Justice Gupta is absolutely correct.
So one last thing, this ban, the ban will still be in the Karnataka. How you see the implications of this differ and split judgment?
See, this judgment will have no bearing on the judgment of Karnataka High Court. Therefore, whatever is the direction of Karnataka High Court will continue till the outcome of the verdict of the new bench. So that will continue.
So this is lawyer Varun Sinha along with us, who was telling us all the updates on the split of judgment which has come direct from the Supreme Court. You are watching Republic TV. It's time for a short break, but on the other side of the break we'll give you more updates and more views and thoughts of different lawyers here from the Supreme Court lawns, as I am reporting here from Supreme Court. Stay tuned, keep watching Republic TV. We'll be right back after a short break.
We are the fastest growing economy. We have the potential to become a superpower. Last year, the economy was all geared up. Now it's time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower. The world supermarket. The world is ours for the taking. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
This is the place where the crime took place. Now what you see over here, there is at least a 5 feet deep burial ground where the woman was buried. One of the victims was chopped to pieces, 56 pieces, and then she was buried in a pit which was made beforehand itself.
Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. We are the 5th largest economy. We are the fastest growing major economy. Last year, the economy was all geared up. Now is the time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower.
Last year, we were all geared up.
This network is proof that everything in India is greenfield. Is it time for the Republic Network to do a spectacular intervention in global digital news media or not? It's my passion project. So that is our consecration to making India a superpower.
Now India has a clear goal. Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
Mission Superpower is the goal. Now it is time to get there. Policymakers, economists and new business leaders assemble on one platform. A platform that puts the spotlight on India's race to global domination. A platform where the most pressing questions are discussed. A platform that celebrates the country's exponential growth. Republic Media Network proudly presents the country's biggest India Economic Summit this October 14th only on Republic TV.
Mission Superpower is the ultimate goal. There's no stopping the India story. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
It's the Diamond Jubilee of the Indian Air Force and celebrations are on at Jammu and Kashmir.
2 women in Kerala were murdered and buried in a horrific case of human sacrifice. Over 200 families in Assam's Dhimaji district have been affected by floods due to heavy rainfall.
गोपाल भाई वापस से हम ऐसा सर चेस करने की बात नहीं है चेस करने की आप मुझे हैकल मत करिए सुनिए चेस कौन कर रहा है वीडियो के बारे में आपने एक धर्म के ऊपर भी कई सारे जो शब्द बोले हैं तो क्या आप उससे सहमति रखते हैं चेस करने की बात
2021, the Indian economy was all geared up.
We are headed for greatness as a nation. We will be a superpower. If there's something that I want to see in our lifetime, it is to have our best living years as a citizen of a superpower.
Now there's a new goal, Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. Steady amid recession. Steady amid inflation. Goal is global dominance. Witness the India growth story.
Hijab case that came up in the Supreme Court today. A split verdict comes from the Supreme Court with different dissenting judgments from Justice Hemant Gupta, who's retiring tomorrow, and Justice Dhulia. What's going to be happening is the Karnataka High Court is going to the High Court's order is going to continue to remain applicable. It's going to stay. That means hijab ban will continue.
उत्तर प्रदेश में कानून व्यवस्था से खिलवाड़ करने को किसी को भी अनुमति नहीं है। हम ऐसे दंगाइयों, बलवाइयों, जो गैर कानूनी कृत्य में संलिप्त लोग हैं, उनके खिलाफ लगातार कड़ी कार्रवाई जारी रहेगी।
एक सवाल सर ये है कि माफियाओं के खिलाफ आपकी सरकार की कार्रवाई जारी है। कल गाजीपुर में एक बहुत बड़ी कार्रवाई हुई है मुख्तार अंसारी के गुर्गे के खिलाफ। क्या ये कार्रवाई आगे भी चलती रहेगी?
लगातार हम बैड एलिमेंट्स के खिलाफ जो लाइन ऑर्डर को डिस्टर्ब करते हैं, उनके लिए चुनौती बने हुए हैं। गैंगस्टर्स के खिलाफ जो संगठित माफिया गिरोह हैं, इसके अलावा आपसी वैमनस्यता के कारण जो घटनाएं होती हैं, उनमें भी हम कड़ी कार्रवाई करेंगे, किसी को बख्शेंगे नहीं।
हिजाब को लेकर जो कर्नाटक में प्रतिबंध लगा था, तब भी उत्तर प्रदेश में कई जगहों पर विरोध है।
देखिए, उत्तर प्रदेश राज्य में कानून व्यवस्था को मेंटेन
Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on mission superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. No longer on the fence anymore. A new India is empowering a paradigm shift. The mission now is global dominance. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. From an emerging economy, now the 5th largest economy in the world, India has seen exponential growth in the last 8 years. The preferred investment destination of the world now has a goal: mission superpower. Union ministers, bankers, investors, policymakers, thinkers. Republic Media Network proudly presents the second edition of the India Economic Summit. This October 14th only.
We are the fastest growing economy. We have the potential to become a superpower. Last year, the economy was all geared up. Now it's time to set the goal in sight. Mission superpower.
The world supermarket. The world is ours for the taking. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
This is the place where the crime took place. Now what you see over here, there is at least a 5 feet deep burial ground where the woman was buried. One of the victims was chopped to pieces, 56 pieces, and then she was buried in a pit which was made beforehand itself.
Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on mission superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
We are the 5th largest economy. We are the fastest growing major economy. Last year the economy was all geared up. Now is the time to set the goal in sight. Mission superpower.
Last year, we were all geared up.
This network is proof that everything in India is greenfield. Is it time for the Republic Network to do a spectacular intervention in global digital news media or not? It's my passion project. So that is our consecration to making India a superpower.
Now India has a clear goal: mission superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
Mission superpower is the goal. Now it is time to get there. Policymakers, economists and new business leaders assemble on one platform. A platform that puts the spotlight on India's race to global domination. A platform where the most pressing questions are discussed. A platform that celebrates the country's exponential growth. Republic Media Network proudly presents the country's biggest India Economic Summit this October 14th only on Republic TV.
Mission superpower is the ultimate goal. There's no stopping the India story. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
It's the Diamond Jubilee of the Indian Air Force and celebrations are on at Jammu and Kashmir.
2 women in Kerala were murdered and buried in a horrific case of human sacrifice. Over 200 families in Assam's Dhimaji district have been affected by floods due to heavy rainfall.
गोपाल भाई वापस से हम ऐसा सर चेस करने की बात नहीं है, चेस करने की आप मुझे हैकल मत करिए। सुनिए चेस कौन कर रहा है, वीडियो के बारे में आपने एक धर्म के ऊपर भी कई सारे जो शब्द बोले हैं, तो क्या आप उससे सहमति रखते हैं? चेस करने की बात
2021, the Indian economy was all geared up.
We are headed for greatness as a nation.
Has differed with his view, and he has expressed that he has a differing view because a girl child faces a lot of problems while they are being sent to the schools and colleges, and their right to education is more important than wearing or not wearing a hijab.
Sir, but this also means that now it will go to a larger bench. Will it go to a 3-judge bench, or is it going to be
now
to the 9-judge bench?
Operative part of the order says that it has to be placed before the Honorable Chief Justice of India, and he is going to form a new bench. Either it will be a larger bench, or it could be even 3 judges bench.
You're watching Republic TV. It's time for a short break, but on the other side of the break, we'll give you all the updates on the very important verdict which has come today from Supreme Court. Split of verdict in the hijab row we have seen. Now, thoughts and views of different lawyers is currently coming from Supreme Court laws as we see that there is a different judgment of both the justices. Stay tuned with us. You are watching Republic TV. We'll be right back after a short break.
It's raring for adventure, a fierce hunter. The new breed rises above all others. A new breed of SUVs, the advanced Grand Vitara, rule every road.
Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on mission superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
We are the 5th largest economy. We are the fastest growing major economy. Last year the economy was all geared up. Now is the time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower.
Last year, we were all geared up.
This network is proof that everything in India is greenfield. Is it time for the Republic Network to do a spectacular intervention in global digital news media or not? It's my passion project. So that is our consecration to making India a superpower.
Now India has a clear goal, Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
Mission Superpower is the goal. Now it is time to get there. Policymakers, economists and new business leaders assemble on one platform. A platform that puts the spotlight on India's race to global domination. A platform where the most pressing questions are discussed. A platform that celebrates the country's exponential growth. Republic Media Network proudly presents the country's biggest India Economic Summit this October 14th only on Republic TV.
Mission Superpower is the ultimate goal. There's no stopping the India story. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
It's the Diamond Jubilee of the Indian Air Force and celebrations are on at Jammu and Kashmir.
2 women in Kerala Kerala were murdered and buried in a horrific case of human sacrifice. Over 200 families in Assam's Dhimaji district have been affected by floods due to heavy rainfall.
गोपाल भाई वापस से हम ऐसा सर चेस करने की बात नहीं है, चेस करने की आप मुझे हैकल मत करिए। सुनिए चेस कौन कर रहा है? वीडियो के बारे में आपने एक धर्म के ऊपर भी कई सारे जो शब्द बोले हैं, तो क्या आप उससे सहमति रखते हैं? चेस करने की बात
2021, the Indian economy was all geared up.
We are headed for greatness as a nation. We will be a superpower. If there's something that I want to see in our lifetime, it is to have our best living years as a citizen of a superpower.
Now there's a new goal, Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. Steady amid recession. Steady amid inflation. Goal is global dominance. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. Time to once again action our destiny.
Islamic point of view is concerned. As per Islamic point of view, whatever Allah has stated in the Quran and whatever Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, we consider all those things as an essential part of our religion. So covering head has been ordered by Allah in Surah Hijab and Surah An-Nur of the Quran. So it is mandatory and compulsory on the Muslim girls and women to cover their head. So as far as the constitution of our country is concerned, you all know that Article 25 and then Article 21, which is related to the liberty of life and liberty of life, and which is considered to be the fundamental of the fundamental rights. So as per all these constitution article also.
Well, as we see, the Supreme Court has given the judgment in the hijab ban case, where we see that it's a split judgment, but also at the same time, now the Karnataka Education Minister says that the ban on hijab will continue and they welcome the judgment given by the Supreme Court. We'll be right back after a short break. Keep watching Republic TV live coverage back on Republic TV after a short break.
We are the fastest growing economy. We have the potential to become a superpower. Last year, the economy was all geared up. Now it's time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower.
The world supermarket. The world is ours for the taking. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
This is the place where the crime took place. Now what you see over here, there is at least a 5 feet deep burial ground where the woman was buried. One of the victims was chopped to pieces, 56 pieces, and then she was buried in a pit which was made beforehand itself.
Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
We are the 5th largest economy. We are the fastest growing major economy. Last year, the economy was all geared up. Now is the time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower.
Last year, we were all geared up.
This network is proof that everything in India is greenfield. Is it time for the Republic Network to do a spectacular intervention in global digital news media or not? It's my passion project. So that is our consecration to making India a superpower.
Now, India has a clear goal: Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
Mission Superpower is the goal. Now it is time to get there. Policymakers, economists and new business leaders assemble on one platform. A platform that puts the spotlight on India's race to global domination. A platform where the most pressing questions are discussed. A platform that celebrates the country's exponential growth. Republic Media Network proudly presents the country's biggest India Economic Summit this October 14th only on Republic TV.
Mission Superpower is the ultimate goal. There's no stopping the India story. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
It's the Diamond Jubilee of the Indian Air Force and celebrations are on at Jammu and Kashmir.
2 women in Kerala were murdered.
As a democratic government, we welcome whatever the judgment we have received today from the Supreme Court. But we had expected a better judgment because, as you know, that throughout the world, women are demanding not to wear hijab, not to wear burqa. But there is a split judgment in the Supreme Court today. So whatever the Karnataka High Court had given the order, that is valid as on today. So we are going to follow the rules which are framed according to Karnataka Education Act in Karnataka. Definitely 3-bench Supreme Court is going to think everything on the demand of the students and the order of the Karnataka Education Department. And we expect a
time to once again action our destiny. Focus on Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. No longer on the fence anymore. A new India is empowering a paradigm shift. The mission now is global dominance. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. From an emerging economy, now the 5th largest economy in the world, India has seen exponential growth in the last 8 years. The preferred investment destination of the world now has a goal: Mission Superpower. Union ministers, bankers, investors, policymakers, thinkers,
Republic Media Network proudly presents the second edition of the India Economic Summit. This October 14th only. We are the fastest growing economy. We have the potential to become a superpower. Last year, the economy was all geared up. Now it's time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower. The world supermarket. The world is ours for the taking. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
This is the place where the crime took place. Now what you see over here, there is at least a 5 feet deep burial ground where the woman was buried. One of the victims was chopped to pieces, 56 pieces, and then she was buried in a pit which was made beforehand itself.
Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
We are the fifth largest economy. We are the fastest growing major economy. Last year the economy was all geared up. Now is the time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower.
Last year we were all geared up.
This network is proof that everything in India is greenfield. Is it time for the Republic Network to do a spectacular intervention in global digital news media or not? It's my passion project. So that is our consecration to making India a superpower.
Now India has a clear goal. Mission Superpower.
It's a split verdict by the Supreme Court, and also there are a lot of political ramifications which is happening not only in Karnataka but also across the entire country. And now the security is also being beefed up at ground zero in Udupi. And all this and much more on the other side of this short commercial only on Republic.
गोपाल भाई वापस से हम ऐसा सर चेस करने की बात नहीं है, चेस करने की आप मुझे हैकल मत करिए। सुनिए चेस कौन कर रहा है? वीडियो के बारे में आपने एक धर्म के ऊपर भी कई सारे जो शब्द बोले हैं, तो क्या आप उससे सहमति रखते हैं? चेस करने की बात
2021, the Indian economy was all geared up.
We are headed for greatness as a nation. We will be a superpower. If there's something that I want to see in our lifetime, it is to have our best living years as a citizen of a superpower.
Now there's a new goal. Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. Steady amid recession. Steady amid inflation. Goal is global dominance. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. No longer on the fence anymore. A new India is empowering a paradigm shift. mission now is global dominance. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. From an emerging economy, now the fifth largest economy in the world, India has seen exponential growth in the last 8 years. The preferred investment destination of the world now has a goal: mission superpower. Union ministers, bankers, investors, policymakers, thinkers. Republic Media Network proudly presents the second edition of the India Economic Summit this October 14th.
We are the fastest growing economy. We have the potential to become a superpower. Last year, the economy was all geared up. Now it's time to set the goal in sight. Mission superpower.
The world supermarket. The world is ours for the taking. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
This is the place where the crime took place. Now what you see over here, there is at least a 5 feet deep burial ground where the woman was buried. One of the victims was chopped to pieces, 56 pieces, and then she was buried in a pit which was made beforehand itself.
The Supreme Court has now delivered a split verdict on the hijab matter. The matter is now going to be decided by the Chief Justice of India. Whether it goes into a larger bench or not, that's going to be decided by the Chief Justice of India. But what ramification does it have on a poll-bound state like that of Karnataka? We've already heard from the Education Minister a short while back, but we'll get you all the reactions coming in from the state of Karnataka and other states. Stay tuned.
11,000 placements last year. At Amity, we are committed to nurturing passionate, hardworking and proactive professionals.
Mission superpower is the goal. Now it is time to get there. Policymakers, economists and new business leaders assemble on one platform. A platform that puts the spotlight on India's race to global domination. A platform where the most pressing questions are discussed. A platform that celebrates the country's exponential growth. Republic Media Network proudly presents the country's biggest India Economic Summit this October 14th only on Republic TV.
Mission superpower is the ultimate goal. There's no stopping the India story. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
It's the Diamond Jubilee of the Indian Air Force and celebrations are on at Jammu and Kashmir.
2 women in Kerala were murdered and buried in a horrific case of human sacrifice. Over 200 families in Assam's Dhimaji district have been affected by floods due to heavy rainfall.
गोपाल भाई वापस से हम ऐसा सर चेस करने की बात नहीं है, चेस करने की आप मुझे हेकल मत करिए। सुनिए चेस कौन कर रहा है? वीडियो के बारे में आपने एक धर्म के ऊपर भी कई सारे जो शब्द बोले हैं, तो क्या आप उससे सहमति रखते हैं? चेस करने की बात
2021, the Indian economy was all geared up.
We are headed for greatness as a nation. We will be a superpower. If there's something that I want to see in our lifetime, it is to have our best living years as a citizen of a superpower.
Now there's a new goal, Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. Steady amid recession. Steady amid inflation. Goal is global dominance. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on mission superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. No longer on the fence anymore. A new India is empowering a paradigm shift. The mission now is global dominance. Republic Media Network brings.
The hijab debate rages on. Top court pronounces a split verdict on hijab. Still no end to the 10-month-long hijab row as the top court delivers a split verdict. Split verdict on hijab in light of divergence of opinion by the judges. Matter likely to be decided upon by the Chief Justice of India. The Karnataka High Court order remains in full force. There's no stay on the hijab ban whatsoever.
Supreme Court is going to think everything on the demand of the students and the order of the Karnataka Education Department. And we expect a better judgment there.
And the Karnataka government draws a comparison with the anti-hijab revolution, says we will wait and watch. Well, good afternoon. You're watching Republic TV, and this is our continuous broadcast on what was expected to be a Supreme Court verdict, but the Supreme Court delivered a split judgment on the pleas that were challenging the Karnataka High Court's judgment upholding the ban on students wearing hijab in Karnataka's educational institutions. Shravan, now the big question on everybody's mind is going to be, where does it go from here? Is it going to be the CJI who ultimately decides what happens?
Well, in fact, as we understand, there isn't any finality to it right now, Nupur. The matter will go up to the Chief Justice of India. It is the Chief Justice of India who would be deciding the nature of the larger bench, whether it's going to be a three-judge bench or it's going to be part of the Constitution bench. That is something that the CGI essentially would be taking a call on. Now, in the meantime, what does really happen with the ban that is basically in place? There appears to be no change on that, and that is exactly what the Karnataka Education Minister was also highlighting. But at the same time, this, there are political ramifications of it also. On the ground, if you see the images that came in a short while back from Udupi, all precautionary measures have essentially been taken, because if you really take a look at the timeline of when it actually started, this entire controversy brewing in one such place, in one university in Udupi, with about 6 students, and thereafter they conducting a press conference, and only later that the Karnataka government comes up with an order in February 2022. And there was a huge furor over this entire matter, essentially indicating that this was a political decision taken by the Karnataka government, keeping an eye on the elections. Having said that, if you take a look at the arguments that have taken place in the Supreme Court, what becomes amply clear from the government side is that they essentially say that this is not a matter of religion. This is about uniformity. This is about bringing in a discipline in an educational institution, and it is with the simple idea that there should be uniformity in an educational institution. Having said that, the Solicitor General essentially said that there was a larger role that was essentially being played by the banned group Popular Front of India and the Campus Front of India, and there were specific instances that were actually given by the Solicitor General. The fact that how the Campus Front of India was basically collecting funds for the same, so that protests could actually be organized, and that has been detailed out in the investigations that have been carried out so far. So for those to actually say that there was a spontaneous movement, the government seems to have a different idea altogether, which has been buttressed by an investigation that has been carried out by the multiple agencies. But what really happens now, if you take a look at both the judges, they're essentially arguing on the fact that this is a matter which perhaps needs to be decided by a larger bench. On the one hand, some of the key issues, whether are we really infringing into the right to profess a particular religion, whether that's the issue, because if you take a look at one of the judges who essentially pointed out that whether hijab is intrinsic to Islam, that was also one of the questions that
we will know in the course of time, Shravan, as we find out in a bit how the court views this and how this goes forward. But let's get in some word from the ground. Aneri is reporting from Bengaluru. We've also got Prajwal from Udupi, where the epicenter essentially of these protests. We've got also joining us Sambhav from the Supreme Court. First to you, Aneri, very, very quickly, how's the reaction been over there? How has this been received?
Well, Nupur, we have been seeing after the judgment from the Supreme Court, well, definitely it's a welcoming judgment from the Karnataka government. We also happen to speak to the Karnataka Education Minister. He welcomes the judgment, and also at the same time, we have been seeing how he has been speaking about the worldwide protest against hijab and burqa. And now we also see that he has very clearly stated that the ban on hijab will continue. So this earlier circular, which was issued by the Karnataka government, will continue after the Supreme Court's judgment, a split judgment which has been coming in from the Supreme Court over the hijab ban. And now Education Minister very clearly stating that the ban on hijab will continue. Well, we also happen to speak to the Revenue Minister of Karnataka. Well, he also says that we welcome the decision. So very clearly a welcoming judgment coming in from the Supreme Court of India, where we see that the government of Karnataka has very openly welcomed it, and also has been saying that now all eyes on the larger bench when the case will be referred there.
Okay, I'm going to go across to Prajwal right now, and I think, Prajwal, you have some breaking news. We are given to understand that the petitioners have now called for a press meeting. You're, of course, reporting from Hubli, and that's been the epicenter of where this actually began. Udupi, I beg your pardon.
Nupur, now, the petitioners have already called in for a press meet now, and it is already underway. And from what we get to understand now, that the press meet was underway, and they stated that they welcome the decision, but it is left in the court of the it is left in the court of the law, and depends on whether it will be referred to a larger bench now. So apart from that, they were not willing to speak on anything. So it was very short, and it was a very quick press meet, and some words that came in, and otherwise there was nothing that the petitioners had to say in this regard. But also in terms of security and the law and order situation in Udupi is largely calm over here. And also the SP, when he spoke to Republic, stated that additional forces have already been deployed, and social media handles of key people who were earlier affiliated with the PFI as well as the Campus Front of India are being monitored, and they're making sure that there will be no sort of violence here or any sort of untoward incidents, or else even the communal harmony will not be disrupted.
All right, Prajwal, I'm going to come back to you. Piyush also joining us live right now. Shaban, I just wanted to come back to very quickly. Shaban, this was a verdict that was going to be watched worldwide. Specifically because there are anti-hijab protests that are on in Iran, and it is now being seen as a political movement.
Well, politics would be part of it, because if you really look at the Karnataka government order which came in February 2022, the criticism that the Karnataka government essentially faced was the timing of this order being brought in. I'm given to understand that some reactions are also coming in. We'll continue with this, but let's just play out the reaction that's coming in.
था और उम्मीद थी कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ब्रांडिंग करके जो है ना ठप्पा लगा देगा, ये नहीं हुआ, ये अच्छी बात है। लेकिन जो चिंता के विषय है वो ये है, अभी तो 3 मेंबर बेंच का भी अपॉइंटमेंट होगा चीफ जस्टिस के द्वारा, लेकिन उन लड़कियों का क्या होगा? मेन बात हमारे सामने ये है, जो अभी भी अपने हिजाब पहनने की राइट, जो एक जस्टिस, सुप्रीम कोर्ट जस्टिस ने कहा कि इट्स अ राइट टू एजुकेशन एंड राइट टू चॉइस, ये जो मेन मुद्दा है, स्टे तो लगा नहीं है कर्नाटक गवर्नमेंट ऑर्डर पर, तो इन लड़कियों का क्या होगा, उनके राइट टू एजुकेशन का क्या होगा, ये भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट को थोड़ा देखने की बहुत सख्त जरूरत है, और जितने जल्दी हो उतने ही अच्छा होगा।
लेकिन जस्टिस हेमंत गुप्ता ने यह भी कहा है हिजाब बैन मामले केस में कि हमने चीफ जस्टिस को मैटर रेफर कर दिया है फॉर एप्रोप्रिएट डायरेक्शन।
चीफ जस्टिस, अभी हमें इंतजार करना पड़ेगा कि चीफ जस्टिस क्या करेंगे और क्या होगा, लेकिन जैसे मैंने कहा 2 बातें इससे स्पष्ट होती है। एक, कर्नाटक सरकार का जो दावा था और जो उनकी उम्मीद थी कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट बिल्कुल स्टैंप लगा लेगी, ये नहीं हुआ आज, ये अच्छी बात है। दूसरी बात ये है, चिंता का विषय ये है उन लड़कियों का क्या होगा। तीसरी बात ये है कि जस्टिस धुलिया के जो आर्ग्यूमेंट्स है, वो आर्ग्यूमेंट्स बहुत सारे देश के बहुत सारे डेमोक्रेटिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस भी यही आर्ग्यू कर रहे थे कि राइट टू एजुकेशन का मुद्दा है, राइट टू चॉइस का मुद्दा है, जो भविष्य में भी महिलाओं के अधिकारों को प्रभावित करेगा।
लेकिन कर्नाटक हैं बीसी नागेश, उन्होंने कहा है कि हम सुप्रीम कोर्ट के फैसले का स्वागत करते हैं और हम इससे बेटर जजमेंट की उम्मीद करते थे, क्योंकि महिलाएं पूरी दुनिया में बुर्का नहीं पहनने का या हिजाब नहीं पहनने का डिमांड कर रही है। कर्नाटक में हाई कोर्ट का जो ऑर्डर है वो इंतरिम ऑर्डर एप्लीकेबल रहेगा, एजुकेशन इंस्टीट्यूशन में हिजाब बैन रहेगा।
अरे वो क्या कहते नहीं कहते उस बात को छोड़ो, इन्होंने जो कुछ किया है, आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने उस पर स्टैंप ऑफ अप्रूवल नहीं दिया है, ये मेन बात है। तो अभी उसके बाद वो कुछ भी कहे, कुछ भी अपनी दलील दे, लेकिन हकीकत ये है, सवाल इस बात का है उन लड़कियों का क्या होगा जो आज भी, जो जस्टिस धुलिया ने जो पॉइंट्स रेज किए, राइट टू चॉइस एंड राइट टू एजुकेशन, ये मुख्य मुद्दे सामने आए हैं, तो वो अभी देखने की जरूरत है कि चीफ जस्टिस जी क्या करते हैं।
और एक और घटना है झारखंड की, उसमें एक लड़की की डेड बॉडी, ट्राइबल लड़की की डेड बॉडी पेड़ से टंगा हुआ मिला है, कुछ ही दिनों में चौथी घटना है।
ये बहुत ही
Well, that was the reaction coming in from CPM leader Brinda Karat, once again raising this entire point about right to choice. Hailing the Supreme Court verdict now coming in, the split verdict that has essentially come in. But once again, the question that is still being raised, what sort of impact does it really have on the ground in terms of the education of girl child, given the fact that it has essentially been directly linked to the fact that will it actually impact the education of girl child, about their enrollment, about their participation, and the Karnataka government on the other hand once again raising this entire issue that worldwide we are seeing the kind of anti-hijab protests actually taking place, especially in countries like Iran. They are saying that this is not linked to just a religion. It is also linked to the fact that it needs to be, there should be some sort of a uniformity when it comes to educational institutions, and that is in that spirit that the order was essentially being brought in by the Karnataka government. In fact, the education minister who spoke just a short while back, perhaps you could also play out the reaction that came in from the education minister, where once again the highlight essentially being that this is how changing times demand a change, and more importantly, what is even more important to point out here is the fact that this has been welcomed by many. Whether at all there is only a section which was driven by groups which have now been banned, like the Popular Front of India and the Campus Front of India, because the government somewhere down the line believes that through proper investigation they've come to a conclusion that these protests that we saw soon after the ban that came into place, it was organized, or rather orchestrated, by groups like the Popular Front of India with simple ulterior motives. Let's just play out the reaction that came in from the education minister.
या छात्रों का शिक्षण के बारे में वो लोग को चिंता नहीं है। कांग्रेस को एक ही चिंता इस देश में पावर लेना, पावर के लिए कुछ भी होने दे। देश में व्यक्ति को वैयक्तिक रूप से वो लोग को चिंता कभी नहीं किया। स्वतंत्र कब से आया? स्वतंत्र लेने के लिए इस देश को स्प्लिट किया था। इसके बाद में भी हर निर्णय देश सोचकर कभी नहीं लिया है, इलेक्शन देखकर ही लिया है। वह इलेक्शन के लिए एक कम्युनिटी का मत के लिए वह लोग सब बात करता है। मैं इस कांग्रेस को कुछ एडवाइस करने के लिए इच्छा नहीं करता है, मगर कांग्रेस का बात सुनकर उसका जीवन को कौन कौन खराब कर रहा है उसको मैं एडवाइस करने को इच्छा करता है। वह कांग्रेस का बात मत सुनो, पीएफआई का बात मत सुनो, एसएफआई का बात मत सुनो। आपका जीवन 99.9% छात्रों ने क्या निर्णय लेकर हमारा शाला और कॉलेज को आ रहा है, ऐसा ही आप भी आ जाओ, शिक्षण पूरा करो, आपका पैर के ऊपर आप खड़ा रहो।
Well, that was the education minister, of course. Let me also go across right now on the ground to Sambhav. Sambhav, now, what we are given to understand is that with, what the Supreme Court has said today, the status quo now remains, which means that the ban on the hijab in educational institutions stays in place. So, give us a sense of, Sambhav, what do we expect from the court next?
So when it comes to the expectation with the court next, to my mind, this matter would go to the Chief Justice of India, and he would further send this matter to likely to a 3-judge bench, or it is up to the Chief Justice of India to decide which bench to be constituted, as it was a 2-judge bench wherein wherein a split verdict today came from the top court, wherein Justice Hemant Gupta upheld the ban of the in the Karnataka hijab, and on the other hand, Justice Dhulia has given his own opinion, quoting Article 14 and 19 of Indian Constitution, and saying that it is up to the girls, they have the right to wear what they want to wear. So it's a split verdict by the apex court today. Now the matter would go to might go to a larger bench, or might go to a constitution bench, as earlier it was pointed out by lawyers of the petitioners. But earlier it was not the case. But now there are chances that it might go for the larger bench also. Apart from it, in the 10 days of the hearing happened at the apex court, many arguments were made by Solicitor General of India, Tushar Mehta, noteworthy arguments, including the role of the PFI into it. And on the other hand, when I asked few of the questions to the lawyers of the petitioners in the lawns of the Supreme Court regarding on one hand when there are protests going on in Iran, and on the other hand we are discussing this matter at the top court, how do you see this? So on this the lawyer said that again he said that it is a fundamental right and we are the secular country. So it is up to the top court to decide which way to go in this matter.
So Sambhav, essentially the ball will be now in the top court's court to figure out what happens next. I'm going to come back to you, but Piyush, we are seeing political reactions come out already. We just saw Brinda Karat over there. She said that I'm quite happy with this, at least it goes to a larger bench. What are you hearing from various political parties on this? Because as Shavan was pointing it out, you know, it is as political as it gets.
Well, indeed, it is a political movement. We also saw as to how there were some elements who were behind this, be it about the PFI or Campus Front of India. They were the one who did a lot of planning before carrying out such protest, because the protest not only took place in Udupi, but also it spread in different parts of Karnataka, then in Kerala, then also in few parts of Uttar Pradesh, which is certainly telling us as to how there is a mass political movement behind all the protests those are taking place as far as girls wearing hijab in schools is concerned. Now what we are given to understand is that the left has come out and is now asking what about the girls who are protesting, what about the girls who want to wear hijab in schools, and what about all these petitioners who had approached to Supreme Court after Karnataka High Court had put a ban on wearing hijab in schools. On the other side, so far Congress specifically as well as the central BJP has not reacted. They are basically looking into what the Chief Justice of India is further going to do. Certainly, like Sambhav is pointing out, that CJI is going to most likely form a higher bench, and then that beg your pardon, that bench would be looking into the further developments, but the bodies like NCW, NCPCR and other bodies are also of the view that they are still waiting for the final verdict from Supreme Court, and then only they are going to come with their own viewpoints. But so far we have seen the central government bodies and also the BJP at large, they have been opposing the kind of protests that have been taking place in various parts of Karnataka.
So we are still awaiting the major political outfits to come out with their reactions. Right now, Piyush, Sambhav, Prajwal, Ashwin as well as Shavan, all of you do stay with us. We're going to quickly play out some of the reactions that we've had so far.
As per Islamic point of view, whatever Allah has stated in the Quran and whatever Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, we consider all those things as an essential part of our religion. So covering head has been ordered by Allah in Surah Hijab and Surah An-Nur of the Quran. So it is mandatory and compulsory on the Muslim girls and women.
धार्मिक मामलों में इंटरफेयर नहीं करना चाहिए. इस तरह की जो अपीलें हैं उनको सिरे से खारिज करना चाहिए, क्योंकि कोर्ट की अगर पेंडेंसी हम देखें तो वो बहुत ज़्यादा है. कोर्ट को कहना चाहिए सरकार को साफ तौर से कि ऐसे लोग जो इस तरह की अपील डालते हैं उनको कोई ना कोई पनिशमेंट होना चाहिए, क्योंकि हमारे पास ऑलरेडी बर्डन बहुत ज़्यादा है, बहुत ज़्यादा काम है. 3.5 करोड़ मामले पेंडिंग हैं, तो हम उनको देखें या इनको देखें.
Well, Ashwin is also joining us from Thiruvananthapuram. Now, Ashwin, Kerala, of course, has been in the focus for a lot of reasons, specifically, you know, the fact that the PFI essentially came from there. And the protests that we saw in Udupi were linked to the PFI. So what has been the response that we are getting over there?
Well, it's true that after the union government banned the Popular Front of India and this allied organization, the Campus Front of India, which was in fact trying to create a flare within the institutions in Udupi, in Karnataka and various other places. This verdict was something which was being awaited by the Kerala society as a whole, because of the 25 petitions that has been filed in the Supreme Court. Some of the prominent Muslim organizations, the Samasta Ulema, as well as few other Kerala-based, Kerala-headquartered organization had filed, their petition in the Supreme Court, contesting the Karnataka High Court's order. So based on that, Kerala was closely watching the proceeds of the Supreme Court order. Now there has been a deviance in the division bench right now. The reactions are still expected from the politicians over here. At the moment, Kerala was closely watching it. We are trying to get some of the petitioners from the Samasta, Ulema and few other organizations were based in the north of Kerala, and we are trying to get their viewpoint on the issue as well. At the moment, we are just trying to get it.
Now, Shravan, just coming back to you. Shravan, during this time, the protests that we saw in Udupi were actually a starting point which stunned the country, because in a sense, you know, overnight you saw these huge crowds of people, you saw these youngsters, who just started to protest, and that, Shravan, was really the warning bell, wasn't it?
Well, in fact, the question is whether at all these protests were organic in nature or not, or was it all orchestrated? Now, that's something that the investigators should be answering. But having said that, simply relying on what the government had to tell the top court, if you go by the claims that have been made by the Solicitor General, then it does appear that large part of these protests that were carried out in the state of Karnataka, this was largely by a banned group which goes by the name of Popular Front of India, its affiliate Campus Front of India. And what's important to point out here is how exactly the funding essentially comes in to this particular group called Campus Front of India, so that these protests could actually be organized. Now, if you take a look at it, some of these protests were actually taking place even before the Karnataka government came in, brought in this order in February 2022. The first set of protests actually took place in sometime in January, 1st of January to be specific, and it turns out that there was the Campus Front of India, which was basically organizing most of these protests. Obviously, this intensified post the Karnataka government passed an order. But having said that, it's important to point out here once again that was this all about religion? Was this about a particular community? As it was pointed out by the lawyers, that this is about a right to profess one's religion. We'll continue with our updates on the other side of this short break.
Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
We are the 5th largest economy. We are the fastest growing major economy. Last year the economy was all geared up. Now is the time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower.
Last year we were all geared up.
This network is proof that everything in India is greenfield. Is it time for the Republic Network to do a spectacular intervention in global digital news media or not? It's my passion project. So that is our consecration to making India a superpower.
Now India has a clear goal, Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
Mission Superpower is the goal. Now it is time to get there. Policymakers, economists and new business leaders assemble on one platform. A platform that puts the spotlight on India's race to global domination. A platform where the most pressing questions are discussed. A platform that celebrates the country's exponential growth. Republic Media Network proudly presents the country's biggest India Economic Summit this October 14th only on Republic TV.
Mission Superpower is the ultimate goal. There's no stopping the India story. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
It's the Diamond Jubilee of the Indian Air Force and celebrations are on at Jammu and Kashmir.
2 women in Kerala were murdered and buried in a horrific case of human sacrifice. Over 200 families in Assam's Dhimaji district have been affected by floods due to heavy rainfall.
गोपाल भाई वापस से हम ऐसा सर चेस करने की बात नहीं है, चेस करने की आप मुझे हैकल मत करिए। सुनिए चेस कौन कर रहा है? वीडियो के बारे में आपने एक धर्म के ऊपर भी कई सारे जो शब्द बोले हैं, तो क्या आप उससे सहमति रखते हैं? चेस करने की बात
2021, the Indian economy was all geared up.
We are headed for greatness as a nation. We will be a superpower. If there's something that I want to see in our lifetime, it is to have our best living years as a citizen of a superpower.
Now there's a new goal, Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
TMC MLA Manik Bhattacharya has been arrested by ED in the recruitment of primary teachers.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurating Mahakaleshwar Temple Corridor in Ujjain. Thank you for tuning in to Republic this afternoon. We are live and breaking. Lots lined up for you in this edition. First up, let's take a quick check of the top headlines. Hijab debate rages on. Top court pronounces split verdict on hijab. No end to 10-month-long hijab row as top court delivers a split verdict. Split verdict on hijab in light of divergence of opinion by judges, matter likely to be decided upon by the Chief Justice of the country. Karnataka High Court remains in full force. There is no stay on hijab ban whatsoever.
Supreme Court is going to think everything on the demand of the students and the order of the Karnataka Education Department, and we expect a better judgment there.
Karnataka government draws a comparison with anti-hijab revolution, says will wait and watch. Thanks for staying tuned. Straight up, starting with a breaking update coming in on the hijab verdict that has been delivered. The SP MP is talking around, saying hijab is mandatory for women in public. So that's the first response coming in from the Samajwadi Party. The SP MP there saying that hijab is mandatory for women in public places. So controversial comments there made by the Samajwadi Party MP Shafiqur Rahman. Let's also listen into that soundbite of the SP Neta.
देखिए, ये ईमानदारी से एक मजहबी मामला है, इस्लाम का मामला है। इस्लाम के अंदर मतलब ये कि जवान बेटियां और जो हैं वो हैं औरतों के लिए हिजाब का हुक्म दिया गया है कि वो बापर्दा रहें और बेपर्दा होकर बाज़ारों में गलियों में न घूमें। इससे चूँकि हालात बिगड़ते हैं, आवारगी बढ़ती है इससे। और आज अगर इसमें कोई पाबंदी लगाई जाती है कि हिजाब की ज़रूरत नहीं है, वो ये कहते हैं, तो इससे समाज को भी न सिर्फ इस्लाम को बल्कि समाज को नुकसान होगा।
सासा जी, ये मामला सुप्रीम कोर्ट पहुंच गया है, क्या मानते हैं आपके इस मामले को लेकर?
तो हमें उम्मीद है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट इसमें सही फैसला करेगा।
हरियाणा के मंत्री अनिल विज का बयान दे रहे हैं कि जिन लोगों का मन मचलता था वे हिजाब का विरोध करते हैं। ऐसे बयान को किस तरह से देखते हैं?
ये तो बयान जो गलत बयान है कोई भी दे तो उसमें ये ठीक नहीं है।
यानी हरियाणा के मंत्री के बयान को आप गलत मानते हैं?
नहीं, हरियाणा वो कोई मंत्री हो या संतरी हो, कोई भी हो, छोटा हो बड़ा हो, अगर वो कोई किसी मज़हब के ख़िलाफ़, सच्चाई के ख़िलाफ़ कोई बयान देता है तो उसको कोई मजबूरी नहीं है कि उसको कबूल किया जाए.
And we have our multi-city reporters joining us as well. We have Ashwin reporting from Kerala, Harsha from the national capital, and Prajwal reporting from Karnataka's Udupi district. Going first across to Prajwal. Prajwal, if you can break it down for us what the Karnataka education minister has said, making it clear there that the hijab ban will continue in the state of Karnataka.
Absolutely, Samiksha, because now what has happened here is that the primary education minister has clearly gone on to state that no matter what, the students will not be permitted to wear hijab inside the classrooms. He also says that the Karnataka High Court order still remains too. So this is what the primary and secondary education minister has stated, and he's also gone on to state that they welcome the judgment. The Karnataka government welcomes this judgment, and he's also gone on to quote about what is happening out there in Iran, where hundreds and thousands of women have gone on to protest against hijab as well, and stating that that is something which even the Karnataka government is looking forward to while trying to impose a complete ban on hijab inside classrooms as well. And also there has been a lot of political mudslinging now coming in, a lot of political reactions coming in too, because the Karnataka Revenue Minister R. Ashoka earlier also stated that no matter what, the Karnataka government will not budge from its decision, because they have clearly gone on to mention that in the 1983 Karnataka Education Act itself that uniforms are compulsory, and this was not mandated by the Karnataka government but way back in 1983 as well. But the Congress on the other hand are clearly going on and stating that BJP is doing this only for the sake of votes, and they are trying to polarize this entire issue and trying to gain communal favor, especially in the coastal belt of Karnataka, as the assembly elections are soon approaching in 2023.
Yes, well, absolutely. Prajwal, stay with us. Going across to Harsha as well. Harsha, you've been speaking to the petitioners' lawyers also. If you can break it down for us what these pro-hijab lawyers are saying, also those who are opposing the hijab.
Exactly, Samiksha. Now the split in decision clearly came from Justice Hemant Gupta and Sudhanshu Dhulia. But the very important part of their decision was what Sudhanshu Dhulia stated. Sudhanshu Dhulia clearly stated that wearing a hijab is a matter of choice, nothing less, nothing more. Where he also stated that are we doing right by banning the hijab, because in India, where most of the part where the girl child doesn't get the right to education, does the household core and everything, at that time banning the hijab, is it right? Is it the freedom of expression and everything? And by Hemant Gupta, where 11 questions were framed, Article 25 and Article 19 was also stated with the mutually exclusive thing regarding the freedom of expression. So these are the content of the decision which has come today from the Supreme Court. There were many petitioners, where many lawyers whom we interacted on the thoughts and everything. But now when we got the Karnataka Education Minister also very clearly stated that the ban on hijab will stay like that only. Now the decision is in the hand of CGI, whether the larger bench will now hear all the plea from the first starting the 3 bench or the 5 bench. Now it is on the court of CJI. The CJI will take a decision on this. But today split in the decision was clearly something which has come up, because both the justices have different views on the plea, on the arguments they heard for 10 continuous days in the Supreme Court, where Hemant Gupta clearly upheld the Karnataka High Court decision. On the other hand, Dhulia clearly stated that he disagreed from the Karnataka High Court's order. So these are the things which we saw in Supreme Court today, and several lawyers from Anas Tanvi to Varun Jain and Ejaz Maqbool, everyone clearly keeping their thoughts on the decision today. Many lawyers have stated that they agree with the judgment, they respect the judgment of both the judges, both the justices, but we have to wait what further happens, because now from the 0 point again the hearing will start. Again the larger bench, the 3 bench or 5 bench will be constituted. It is in the court of CGI. Now he has to see, he will take a decision. Now from point 0 the things will start, but we saw in whole of this till the September 22 when the decision was reserved, how 21 advocates were there from the side of Muslim petitioners,
Harsha,
and 3 from the side of state government. But a lot of discussion happened. Yes.
Just stay with us. And before I go across to Ashwin as well, who's reporting live from Thiruvananthapuram, let's play out some reactions as well coming in from the Muslim boards, AIM, PLB as well as the IMAM.
As per Islamic point of view, whatever Allah has stated in the Quran and whatever Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, we consider all those things as an essential part of our religion. So covering head has been ordered by Allah. in Surah Hijab and Surah An-Nur of the Quran. So it is mandatory and compulsory on the Muslim girls and women.
धार्मिक मामलों में इंटरफेयर नहीं करना चाहिए। इस तरह की जो अपीलें हैं उनको सिरे से खारिज करना चाहिए, क्योंकि कोर्ट की अगर पेंडेंसी हम देखें तो वो बहुत ज़्यादा है। कोर्ट को कहना चाहिए सरकार को साफ तौर से कि ऐसे लोग जो इस तरह की अपील डालते हैं उनको कोई ना कोई पनिशमेंट होना चाहिए, क्योंकि हमारे पास ऑलरेडी बर्डन बहुत ज़्यादा है, बहुत ज़्यादा काम है, 3.5 करोड़ मामले पेंडिंग हैं, तो हम उनको देखें या इनको देखें।
And Ashwin also there joining us live. Ashwin, if you could break it down for us, a quick overview as to your takeaways from the verdict that is historic in many ways by the Supreme Court.
Well, Samiksha, right now what we can say is that one of the biggest bodies of Islam in the state of Kerala, called as Samasta, which runs over 10,000 madrasas, is one of the co-petitioners in the case also. They have come on record to say that they welcome the decision that has been taken. In fact, they are happy with the split verdict and that it has gone to a larger bench of the Supreme Court. Even the National Secretary of the Indian Union Muslim League, P.K. Kunyalikutty, has also stated his happiness that the matter has been now taken to the higher bench, which will be chaired in all likelihood by the Chief Justice of India. So, P.K. Kunyalikutty of the Muslim League has also given a statement in Kozhikode today, stating that the belief and the dress system which is prescribed along with that belief should not be tampered with, and such tampering does not happen anywhere else. And if indeed India does pass such a law like that, then it is against the principles of humanism, is what the IUML National General Secretary P.K. Kunyalikutty has stated. Now remember, Samiksha, this whole the whole issue came up on December 27th last year, when in Udupi, in the PU college in Udupi it started, and on January 1st the protest, which was reportedly instigated by the now banned Campus Front of India, was running the entire protest as well. So Kerala was closely watching the proceeds of it, and now what we can see is the Muslim bodies have welcomed the decision and they are looking forward to the decision by a higher bench of the Supreme Court.
Well, absolutely. Ashwin, going across to Prajwal as well. Prajwal, you're reporting live from Udupi. We've seen in the past few months when that order also came, how Udupi has been the epicenter of protests. How is the situation looking now? Has the security been beefed up after that SC verdict, split verdict has come out?
Samiksha, we also spoke to the SP a short while from now, and he stated that so far there has been no sort of untoward incident which has been reported in Udupi or else even in Dakshina Kannada by and large, because it was a split verdict and it did not have a bearing on the situation right here at Udupi. We saw a few additional women constables who were deployed at the college along with 2 to 3 petrol vans too, and the Karnataka State Reserve Police too had been deployed. And mainly now the Udupi, the cops in Udupi are taking the helps of the cyber sleuths because they are clearly going ahead and looking at any sort of angle where they might instigate violence through any sort of social media handles. And on this note, we will also quickly go across and slip into a short break, but more news and updates regarding the Supreme Court verdict on hijab only on Republic. Stay tuned.
We are the fastest growing economy. We have the potential to become a superpower. Last year, the economy was all geared up. Now it's time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower. The world supermarket. The world is ours for the taking. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
This is the place where the crime took place. Now what you see over here, there is at least a 5 feet deep burial ground where the woman was buried. One of the victims was chopped to pieces, 56 pieces, and then she was buried in a pit which was made beforehand itself.
Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
We are the fifth largest economy. We are the fastest growing major economy. Last year, the economy was all geared up. Now is the time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower.
Last year, we were all geared up.
This network is proof that everything in India is greenfield. Is it time for the Republic Network to do a spectacular intervention in global digital news media or not? It's my passion project. So that is our consecration to making India a superpower.
Now India has a clear goal. Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
Mission Superpower is the goal. Now it is time to get there. Policymakers, economists and new business leaders assemble on one platform. A platform that puts the spotlight on India's race to global domination. A platform where the most pressing questions are discussed. A platform
And we continue to track all the reactions coming in on the big story that we are covering, the SC split verdict on the hijab row. We have our multi-state reporters also joining us, Ashwin as well as Harsha reporting live. Harsha reporting live from the national capital and Ashwin from Kerala. Going first across to Harsha. Harsha, take us through the reactions coming in. We understand that the SP MP they're stoking a row saying that hijab is mandatory for women in public. Take us through other reactions coming in from the Congress as well as the other party leaders.
Clearly, Samiksha, since December 21, when this entire protest erupted in Karnataka and many parts of Kerala as well, and from north to south, from south to north, we saw at various places how these protests have gathered, which started with 6 girls, and then a huge protest was gathered, and the activists from JNU and Jamia also participated in this protest. With one thing for sure, but now after this split verdict from both the justices Hemant Gupta and Sudhanshu Dhulia, now various reactions are pouring in from Congress Party, BJP, and as well as from Samajwadi Party as well. Samajwadi Party leader ST Hassan and many others have clearly stated that hijab comes under the religious practice of Islam and it is mandatory for girls in Islam to wear the hijab. Now they are saying that the split in decision is right now seen, but yes, we hope in the future that the verdict comes in favor of the Muslim petitioners, that hijab is matter of choice of female students or females who go in fact to the institution to study, and the education is being in jeopardy since the time the hijab is banned in Karnataka. And now Hemant Gupta and Sudhanshu Dhulia both have the different opinion, different decision in this hijab verdict. But yes, there were many lawyers like Varun Jain, Anas Tanvi, the lawyers from the side of
Harsha, just stay with us. We have a slew of political reactions coming in. Let's listen into that reaction coming in from the SP leader, where he has said that hijab is mandatory for women in public places, thereby questioning the split verdict that has come by the Supreme Court. Let's listen into those reactions.
देखिए, ये ईमानदारी से एक मजहबी मामला है, इस्लाम का मामला है। इस्लाम के अंदर मतलब ये कि जवान बेटियां और जो हैं वो हैं औरतों के लिए हिजाब का हुक्म दिया गया है कि वो बापर्दा रहें और बेपर्दा होकर बाज़ारों में गलियों में न घूमें। इससे चूँकि हालात बिगड़ते हैं, आवारगी बढ़ती है इससे। और आज अगर इसमें कोई पाबंदी लगाई जाती है कि हिजाब की ज़रूरत नहीं है, वो ये कहते हैं, तो इससे समाज को भी न सिर्फ इस्लाम को बल्कि समाज को नुकसान होगा।
सासा जी, ये मामला सुप्रीम कोर्ट पहुंच गया है, क्या मानते हैं आपके इस मामले को लेकर?
तो हमें उम्मीद है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट इसमें सही फैसला करेगा।
हरियाणा के मंत्री अनिल विज का बयान दे रहे हैं कि जिन लोगों का मन मचलता था वे हिजाब का विरोध करते हैं। ऐसे बयान को किस तरह से देखते हैं?
ये तो बयान जो गलत बयान है कोई भी दे तो उसमें ये ठीक नहीं है।
यानी हरियाणा के मंत्री के बयान को आप गलत मानते हैं?
नहीं, हरियाणा वो कोई मंत्री हो या संतरी हो, कोई भी हो, छोटा हो बड़ा हो, अगर वो कोई किसी मज़हब के ख़िलाफ़, सच्चाई के ख़िलाफ़ कोई बयान देता है तो उसको कोई मजबूरी नहीं है कि उसको कबूल किया जाए।
देखिए, हम पूछते हैं कि जस्टिस गुप्ता ने उन चीज़ों पर कोई गौर ही नहीं किया जो मुसलमानों की तरफ से अदालत में पेश की गई थी। कुरान और हदीस सब उनके सामने रखा गया, लेकिन उसको उन्होंने नहीं माना। जबकि दूसरे जज साहब जो थे उन्होंने उसको तस्लीम किया और कर्नाटका गवर्नमेंट के फ़ैसले को, हाई कोर्ट के फ़ैसले को रद्द कर दिया। लेकिन चूँकि इनमें इख्तलाफ था, इसलिए मानी बात थी कि जब दो जज में इख्तलाफ होता है तो उसको फिर तीसरे जज के पास भेजा जाता है। लेकिन हम ये चाहेंगे कि इसे 3 जज को ना भेजते हुए आईनी बेंच को भेजा जाए, संविधान की बेंच जो है उसको भेजा जाए, इसलिए कि इसमें दस्तूर की 3 दफ़ात, आईन हिंद की 3 दफ़ात 15, 16, 19 और 25, जिसमें इख्तियार दिया गया है हर शहरी को कि वो अपने मनपसंद मज़हब को कबूल करे, वो अपना मनपसंद लिबास पहने, वो अपना मनपसंद ज़िंदगी को गुजारे। जो जब दस्तूर ने हमको ये हक़ दिया है तो हमें क्यों मजबूर किया जाता है कि हम इस हिजाब जो इस्लाम का जुज़ है, मुसलमान औरतों के पर ज़रूरी है, उससे उनको रोका जाए। हम समझते हैं कि दस्तूर के भी ख़िलाफ़ है और इस्लाम के ख़िलाफ़ तो है ही है, इसलिए इसको आईनी बेंच के सामने रखा जाना चाहिए।
The split verdict in the hijab row has caused much debate in the public life in the country. Stay tuned to Republic TV. We bring you all the comprehensive opinions about people on the hijab row. Stay tuned to Republic TV.
Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on mission superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. No longer on the fence anymore. A new India is empowering a paradigm shift. The mission now is global dominance. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. From an emerging economy, now the 5th largest economy in the world, India has seen exponential growth in the last 8 years. The preferred investment destination of the world now has a goal: mission superpower. Union ministers, bankers, investors, policymakers, thinkers. Republic Media Network proudly presents the 2nd edition of the India Economic Summit this October 14th only.
We are the fastest growing economy. We have the potential to become a superpower. Last year, the economy was all geared up. Now it's time to set the goal in sight. Mission superpower.
The world supermarket. The world is ours for the taking. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
This is the place where the crime took place. Now what you see over here, there is at least a 5 feet deep burial ground where the woman was buried. One of the victims was chopped to pieces, 56 pieces, and then she was buried in a pit which was made beforehand itself.
Time to once again action our destiny. focus on Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
We are the fifth largest economy. We are the fastest growing major economy. Last year, the economy was all geared up. Now is the time to set the goal in sight. Mission Superpower.
Last year, we were all geared up.
This network is proof that everything in India is greenfield. Is it time for the Republic Network to do a spectacular intervention in global digital news media or not? It's my passion project. So that is our consecration to making India a superpower.
Now India has a clear goal, Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network.
And tracking the story coming in from the national capital, we understand that the AAP leaders are staging a protest outside the NCW office. Gopal Italia, the controversial AAP leader, is also present at this location outside the NCW office. Now remember, AAP's Gujarat chief Gopal Italia has arrived at the office after he was summoned following his controversial viral video in which he insulted the Prime Minister of the country. We understand that several AAP leaders are also present outside the NCW office, and those are the visuals coming in from the national capital outside the NCW office, where the AAP leaders have gathered in large numbers. So a show of strength there by the AAP leaders. Vishal is joining us live from the spot. Vishal, take us through the scenes right now. Massive showdown there outside the NCW office.
जी बिल्कुल, देखिए यहाँ पर साफ तौर पर अभी थोड़ी देर पहले गुजरात के आम आदमी पार्टी के अध्यक्ष गोपाल इटालिया पहुँचे हैं एनसीडब्ल्यू ऑफिस में, राष्ट्रीय महिला आयोग के ऑफिस में पहुँचे हुए हैं और तस्वीरें हम आपको दिखा रहे हैं। अभी थोड़ी देर पहले वो अंदर गए हैं, लेकिन बाहर की तस्वीरें दिखाने की कोशिश करते हैं। यहाँ आम आदमी पार्टी के कार्यकर्ताओं की जो है वो काफ़ी भीड़ है। आइए कुछ कार्यकर्ताओं से बात करने की कोशिश करते हैं। ये बताइए, आपके हाथ में जो है इस पर गुजराती में कुछ लिखा हुआ है, क्या लिखा हुआ है?
ये गुजरात में पाटीदार विरोधी सरकार।
आप लोग किस लिए आए हैं ये बताइए?
ये हम आए हैं, हमारे पार्टी के जो गुजरात के अध्यक्ष हैं उनको यहाँ एक ज़बरदस्ती झूठे इल्ज़ाम में पूछताछ के लिए लाया गया है।
क्यों लाया गया पता है?
बस क्यों लाया गया, भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने कभी आज तक किसी को कुछ वो है कि पूछा है कि किस लिए लाया गया, क्यों ला रहा है, जिसको चाहा उठा लिया।
कुछ और लोगों से बात करने की कोशिश करते हैं। ये बताइए कि आप लोग यहाँ पर आए हुए हैं, हाथ में पोस्टर भी है, किस लिए आए हुए हैं बताइए?
हम इसलिए आए हुए हैं, जो हमारे गुजरात के आम आदमी पार्टी के जो प्रदेश अध्यक्ष हैं और उनके ऊपर जो आरोप लगाए हुए हैं कि कोई वीडियो वायरल हुआ था, लेकिन उस वीडियो से उनका कोई लेना देना नहीं है, वो मुद्दा नहीं है। उनको जो यहाँ पे बुलाया गया है,
में साफ तौर पर देख सकते हैं कि वो कह रहे हैं, मतलब भाजपा का भी ये आरोप है कि राष्ट्रीय सनातन धर्म जो है, सनातन धर्म का अपमान किया, साथ ही साथ प्रधानमंत्री के लिए अपशब्दों का प्रयोग किया।
देखिए ये सब झूठ है, ये सब गलत है।
देखा है आपने वीडियो?
मैंने देखा वीडियो, उसमें खाली सी लिखा, सी बोला उन्होंने, खाली इससे आगे कुछ नहीं बोला।
उसने देख सकते हैं यहाँ पर जो
So we'll continue to track all the latest, the visuals coming in from outside the NCW office after Gopal Italia, the controversial AAP leader who's been summoned in connection with the controversial remarks he had made against the Prime Minister of the country. A very short break. On the other side, we'll get you more news breaks and updates.
11,000 placements last year. At Amity, we are committed to nurturing passionate, hardworking and proactive professionals.
गोपाल भाई वापस से हम ऐसा सर चेस करने की बात नहीं है, चेस करने की आप मुझे हैकल मत करिए। सुनिए, चेस कौन कर रहा है? वीडियो के बारे में आपने एक धर्म के ऊपर भी कई सारे जो शब्द बोले हैं, तो क्या आप उससे सहमति रखते हैं? चेस करने की बात
2021, the Indian economy was all geared up.
We are headed for greatness as a nation. We will be a superpower. If there's something that I want to see in our lifetime, it is to have our best living years as a citizen of a superpower.
Now there's a new goal, Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. Steady amid recession. Steady amid inflation. Goal is global dominance. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on mission superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. No longer on the fence anymore. A new India is empowering a paradigm shift. The mission now is global dominance. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit. From an emerging economy, now the fifth largest economy in the world, India has seen exponential growth in the last 8 years. The preferred investment destination of the world now has a goal: mission superpower. Union ministers, bankers, investors, policymakers, thinkers. Republic Media Network proudly presents the second edition of the India Economic Summit. This is
The headlines at 1 in the afternoon. No end to the 10-month-long hijab row. Top court pronounces split verdict on hijab. Split verdict on hijab in light of divergence of opinion. Matter likely to be decided upon by Chief Justice of India. Karnataka High Court order remains in full force. There's no stay on hijab ban whatsoever.
Supreme Court is going to think everything on the demand of the students and the order of the Karnataka Education Department. And we expect a better judgment there.
Karnataka government welcomes verdict on hijab, says will wait and watch.
बेपर्दा होकर बाजारों में गलियों में न घूमें। इससे चूँकि हालात बिगड़ते हैं, आवारगी बढ़ती है इससे।
Samajwadi Party MP sparks fresh row, says no hijab means misbehavior for women. Hello and welcome. You're watching Live and Breaking here on Republic, and in our top story at this hour, a Samajwadi Party MP now says that the hijab is mandatory for women in public. The Supreme Court had earlier delivered a split verdict on a batch of pleas challenging the Karnataka High Court's judgment upholding the ban on students wearing hijab in Karnataka's educational institutions, while Justice Hemant Gupta ruled in favor of dismissing the appeals against the High Court verdict. Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia held that wearing hijab is a matter of choice. For more, let's listen in.
Today, there is a judgment pronounced by the Honorable Supreme Court. It is a split verdict, and one Honorable Judge has allowed the appeals, and another Honorable Judge dismissed the appeals. two opinions are there. So under these circumstances, there is no clear-cut decisions in respect of the issue of the hijab case is concerned. So then it has to be referred to the, according to my opinion, it has to be referred to the constitutional bench, and the constitutional bench has to take the note of every subject and give the correct judgment in respect of the hijab. If it is not taken by the constitutional bench, the confusion will go on. Confusion will continue regarding the hijab issue is concerned. So there must be a clarity on judgment. For that purpose, it should be referred to the constitutional bench. That is only the way. यह छात्रों का शिक्षण के बारे में वो लोग को चिंता नहीं है। कांग्रेस को एक ही चिंता इस देश में पावर लेना, पावर के लिए कुछ भी होने दे। देश में व्यक्ति को वैयक्तिक रूप से वो लोग को चिंता कभी नहीं किया। स्वतंत्र कब से आया, स्वतंत्र लेने के लिए इस देश को स्प्लिट किया था। इसके बाद में भी हर निर्णय देश सोचकर कभी नहीं लिया है, इलेक्शन देखकर ही लिया है। वह इलेक्शन के लिए एक कम्युनिटी का मत के लिए वह लोग सब बात करता है। मैं इस कांग्रेस को कुछ एडवाइस करने के लिए इच्छा नहीं करता है, मगर कांग्रेस का बात सुनकर उसका जीवन को कौन कौन खराब कर रहा है उसको मैं एडवाइस करने को इच्छा करता है। वह कांग्रेस का बात मत सुनो, पीएफआई का बात मत सुनो, एसएफआई का बात मत सुनो। आपका जीवन 99.9% छात्रों ने क्या निर्णय लेकर हमारा शाला और कॉलेज को आ रहा है, ऐसा ही आप भी आ जाओ, शिक्षण पूरा करो, आपका पैर के ऊपर आप खड़ा रहो।
And so the Supreme Court delivers a split verdict in the hijab row. Joining me now is Samiksha. Samiksha, it's over to you to take us through what all is happening in that regard.
Well, absolutely, Rukma. The order has now been, the matter has now been referred to the larger bench. Harsha, they're reporting live from the national capital. Going across to Harsha now. Harsha, if you could talk to us about the reactions coming in, especially from the petitioners who represented the petitioners in this top court today. What did the lawyers have to say, especially in this regard? Take us through those reactions.
Clearly, Samiksha, we had word with several lawyers from the side of Muslim petitioners as well, the council like Anas Tanveer and like Aftab Ali. They clearly stated that there was split a decision between Hemant Gupta and Sudhanshu Dhulia. But the main thrust of what Sudhanshu Dhulia stated was that whether wearing hijab is a Muslim's is a right or is a choice of female woman or not. Nothing less, nothing more. It's clearly their choice whether they want to wear it or not. They don't want to wear it. But main point is that education of a girl is suffering a lot. There are many girls who are dropping from the school in a country like in a country like India, where there are several places, small villages, where girl child could not get an education there. Are we doing any justice by banning the hijab? And that is the topic. That was the issue with Sudhanshu Dhulia stated, and he said that in his decision, girls' education was the utmost priority, and his decision has involved involved around the education of a girl child. And if we talk about Hemant Gupta, Justice Hemant Gupta, he had framed 11 questions, which also stated about Article 25 and Article 19 about the mutual exclusive thing about the freedom of expression and right of choice of a religion. But we are also getting several reactions from Congress, from BJP, from Samajwadi Party. Leaders like Shafiqur Rahman, leaders like S.T. Hassan from Samajwadi Party are clearly stating that in future, whatever the verdict will be, but it has to be seen that the wearing of hijab by Muslim women is a right of Muslim women, and it comes under the religious practice. It comes under the following of Islam. So these are the things which have been seen today from the Apex Court, from the Supreme Court, right now from where I am reporting.
Yes, a very controversial remark that's been made by Shafiqur Rahman of the Samajwadi Party as well, saying that hijab is mandatory for women in public places. Let's listen into that soundbite once again.
तो देखिए, ये ईमानदारी से एक मजहबी मामला है। इस्लाम का मामला है। इस्लाम के अंदर मतलब ये कि जवान बेटियां और जो हैं वो हैं औरतों के लिए हिजाब का हुक्म दिया गया है कि वो बापर्दा रहें और बेपर्दा होकर बाज़ारों में गलियों में न घूमें। इससे चूँकि हालात बिगड़ते हैं, आवारगी बढ़ती है इससे। और आज अगर इसमें कोई पाबंदी लगाई जाती है कि हिजाब की ज़रूरत नहीं है, वो ये कहते हैं, तो इससे समाज को भी न सिर्फ इस्लाम को बल्कि समाज को नुकसान होगा।
सासा जी, ये मामला सुप्रीम कोर्ट पहुंच गया है, क्या मानते हैं आपके इस मामले को लेकर?
तो हमें उम्मीद है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट इसमें सही फैसला करेगा।
हरियाणा के मंत्री अनिल विज का बयान दे रहे हैं कि जिन लोगों का मन मचलता था वे हिजाब का विरोध करते हैं। ऐसे बयान को किस तरह से देखते हैं?
ये तो बयान जो गलत बयान है कोई भी दे तो उसमें ये ठीक नहीं है।
यानी हरियाणा के मंत्री के बयान को आप गलत मानते हैं?
नहीं, जो हरियाणा वो कोई मंत्री हो या संतरी हो, कोई भी हो, छोटा हो बड़ा हो, अगर वो कोई किसी मज़हब के ख़िलाफ़, सच्चाई के ख़िलाफ़ कोई बयान देता है तो उसको कोई मजबूरी नहीं है कि उसको कबूल किया जाए।
And Aneri also joining us live. Aneri, it's a split verdict by the Supreme Court. What it essentially means is that the Karnataka High Court order that was passed shall continue. If you could put this into context for us again and explain to us what the Karnataka High Court had said in its order earlier.
Well, that's right, Samiksha. The split judgment from the Supreme Court coming in from the very big judgment where we have been seeing how since last 10 months we have been seeing how there was a battle which was going on over the ban on hijab, and also a few days back we also had seen how there was a marathon hearing which was taking place in the Supreme Court in regard with the hijab ban. But now the judgment which has come in is a split judgment, and when we happened to speak to the Karnataka Education Minister, he also clearly stated that the interim order of the Karnataka High Court will continue, and also the ban on hijab.
Yes, Aneri, just hold your thoughts for a moment. I'm just going to come back to you. Yes, we have Adwaita Kala, also activist, joining us. Ma'am, if I can get your quick reaction. It's a split verdict, but a lot of controversial comments also there being made. SP MP there saying that hijab is mandatory for women in public places. Your reaction?
First of all, I don't know why Muslim men are feeling the need to speak up upon an issue that directly impacts women, and deciding what is essential, what is not. On your channel, when I was on the debate with Arnab the other day, all the panelists, some of whom were Islamic scholars as well as women activists, including one lady who was herself wearing a hijab, and they all said that it's not an essential practice. So I really want to know that who is giving the message that this is an essential practice. Politicians, male politicians, Muslim male politicians, they are deciding what is an essential practice in Islam and what isn't. I think this is the kind of mindset that makes general society very wary of these kind of situations.
Well, absolutely, ma'am, and these are the remarks that are being made by several Muslim bodies. If we talk about the AIM, PLB as well as the IMAM, who are saying that hijab is an essential part of Islam.
It's not. I I find it incredible that we're at a phase right now where young girls, women, schoolgirls are getting killed in Iran because they're refusing to wear the hijab. That is the reality. And are you trying to tell me that they don't know their faith? They don't know their rights? Muslim women don't know what is essential and what is not? So I think this is hugely problematic. And I wish that the Supreme Court judgment had been a little more decisive, because what's going to happen now is that we're going to go to a larger bench, and this will continue onwards for a long time. And most importantly, when it is not considered an essential practice, why are these young girls who are protesting for the right to wear hijab in India, while young girls are dying because they don't want to wear the hijab? One has to ask, who is telling them that it's essential?
All right, ma'am, point taken. Thank you for speaking to us. So, activist Adwaita Kala also giving her insights on the split verdict that has come out by the Supreme Court. On that note, let's listen to some reactions coming in from the Muslim bodies on the split verdict that has been released.
Many of them stand on the stage, remove their hijab, cut their hair, to protest. I would have thought that such a modernizing movement should begin from amongst the Muslim community also. Why is it that the schoolgirls in Karnataka who did not wear hijab before this issue was flared up and made a public cause, and by the PFI sympathy, are now insisting to wear it? Why to travel back into the history? Barring this, I am surprised at the anger against it in the Muslim community. They went to the Karnataka High Court. When you submit to the jurisdiction of a court and are defeated, then there should be enough grace to accept the verdict. They challenged the judgment, they challenged the hijab ban on the ground that it is an essential practice in Islam. Since they raised it as a main question, the Karnataka High Court answered it. Now arguing that this question was unnecessary shows a shift in their stand. I think that so long as the bigger bench does not decide it, there should be no agitation, no protest, but there should be a silent following of the judgment of the Karnataka High Court, which continues to hold good.
And joining us now is activist Zeenat Shaukat Ali on the phone line. Ma'am, when we talk about the split verdict, there are so many reactions that are coming in. One of them is that, well, it's now become a question of whether wearing a hijab is actually an essential Islamic practice. And there are many clerics who have come in to say that it is. Well, whilst earlier the view that we were given was entirely different. Your thoughts on this?
You see, the whole thing is that I think there has been a great degree of caution that is being exercised. And I think both the judges, have given different perspectives. One has raised the Article 15 of the Constitution and Article 19 and 25 of the Constitution, and the other other judge has supported the Karnataka High Court judgment. Now, what we have to do is we have to wait for this judgment to come. In the interim period, the Karnataka High Court judgment prevailed, as we had been told. And we should now, honor that, and we have to follow that course. Now, how this, both the decision has been made when both petitioners of both sides have been heard. As far as my own reading is concerned, this is, I don't think this is an essential part of Islam, because if you look at the rest of the Muslim world, we are not the only clergy and we are not the only ulama. We have ulama all over the world. The ulama in Saudi Arabia has said that it is voluntary that you put on the hijab, whether you put it on or not. If it was an essential part of Islam, they would not say that. They have said, yes, decency and modesty, which the Quran emphasizes, and I completely agree with that. So decency and modesty are the norms and not this particular kind of whatever you define. The second part of it is that Imam Tahtawi, the rector of the Al-Azhar University, the greatest voice in the Sunni world, most respected voice, has said the same thing, that there is no compelling people to wear. So if it is an essential part of religion, then that argument flows. And not only that, but except for 3 countries of the world which have made it mandatory, like Iran, like Afghanistan, and like Arcade, you see that there is a turmoil in Iran regarding the issue, and as there is in Afghanistan. The rest of the countries have all made it optional, and that it is a matter of your choice. So if it was an essential part of Islam, would that have happened? Now that is something that we need to question, that whether we are the only guardians of the religion, and there are the other people, all the ulama and the learned all around the world who have come to these conclusions have also discussed this matter, debated this matter, and have therefore come to this kind of an understanding. We have to weigh and consider. So what I say now is, in short, is that we have to await the Honorable Court,
the Supreme Court and what it has to say regarding this matter. And it has to, I'm sure that the court is going to take an overall perspective of what is going to happen. There's only one thing that I'm afraid of, and I'd like to express myself on this issue is that, there should be no politics involved in this. There should be no election issues involved in this. This is a woman's issue, and let us not place a gun on the woman's shoulder and shoot. That is my request.
Right.
Hello?
Right. Well, many thanks, Dr. Zeenat, for joining us there and for sharing your thoughts with us. And joining us now is Senior Advocate Subhash Jha. And Mr. Jha, when we talk about the split verdict by the Supreme Court, well, there are many reactions coming in. Even as it is widely accepted that the hijab face-off is not yet at an end, the Karnataka High Court order stays. But there's also a fresh row in the matter about how certain sections are saying, an SP MP, for instance, is saying that, hijab is mandatory for women, especially in public places. Your reactions?
Certainly not. Perhaps he is not aware of what the law of the land is. Not for the first time the issue of hijab had fallen for consideration before a constitutional court. I may tell you that way back in 2002, Bombay High Court had an occasion to decide the issue of hijab. And then Justice R.M. Lodha, who eventually became the Chief Justice of India, was the senior judge heading the bench. So a division bench along with Justice D.B. Bhosle, who became the Chief Justice of Allahabad High Court subsequently. Now, these two judges have made an in-depth study of a survey of the views of different scholars from different countries, and eventually concluded in a 2002 reported judgment that it is not an essential part of Islamic practice. So therefore, once the issue was set at rest, now followed by then in 2016, incidentally, Muslim man in Air Force, he was an airman, and he says that growing beard is my fundamental right, is an integral part of Islamic practice. Now that matter also went to the Supreme Court, and there 3 judges bench, and incidentally, now in a few days from now, Justice Y.B. Chandrachud would be the Chief Justice of India, the 50th Chief Justice. He delivered the judgment. Incidentally, and what he says interestingly, and that's a judgment rendered by 3-judge bench. And what does he say in a nutshell is that there is no necessity to maintain.
But I also have with me my colleague Samiksha, and she has for us breaking news coming in right now. Samiksha, it's over to you.
Well, absolutely, Rukma. So what we are given to understand right now is that the ED has filed a prosecution complaint against Rana Ayub. So that's trouble they're mounting for Rana Ayub, as the Enforcement Directorate has filed a prosecution complaint under the PMLA Act. What we are given to understand is that the Enforcement Directorate had initiated money laundering investigation on the basis of an FIR that was registered on 7th of September 2021 by the Indirapuram police station. We'll go across to Shravan as well for more details on that, but that's a big breaking update coming in right now. Trouble they're mounting for Rana Ayub, as the Directorate of Enforcement has filed a prosecution complaint against Rana Ayub. What we're given to understand is that the ED had initiated a money laundering investigation in this matter basis an FIR that was registered on 7th of September 2021. That was the FIR that was registered in the Indirapuram police station, Ghaziabad, under various sections of the IPC IT Amendment Act 2008 and Black Money Act against Rana Ayub, alleging that she illegally acquired funds from general public in the name of charity by launching fundraiser campaigns on an online crowdfunding platform, Keto. It was also alleged that Rana Ayub is a journalist by profession and received foreign contribution without registration under the FCRS. So those are the grave allegations that Rana Ayub is facing at this point. We are given to understand is that in this prosecution complaint that has been filed against her, our senior editor Shravan is joining us for more details. Shravan, give us more details on the prosecution complaint against Rana Ayub. Well, we'll go across to Shravan again, but the grave allegations that Rana Ayub is facing at this point are help in raising funds. These investigations are related to this fundraiser, the 3 fundraiser campaigns on Keto platform that was started in April 2020, in which the fundraiser campaign raised amount over 2 crore rupees that was raised pertaining to help in raising funds for slum dwellers and farmers, relief work for Assam, Bihar and Maharashtra, and those were some of the campaigns that were led by Rana Ayub. These are 3 fundraiser campaigns on Keto platform. Shravan is back with us, breaking those details for us. Shravan, over to you, give us more details.
Well, in fact, the latest details that we are picking up, Samiksha, in the charge sheet that has now been filed by the Enforcement Directorate, they made an allegation that Rana Ayub illegally acquired funds, that too from the public, in the name of charity by launching fundraiser campaigns on an online crowdfunding platform which goes by the name of Keto. In fact, Rana Ayub's statement has also been recorded by the Enforcement Directorate, and in which she was specifically asked this question, whether at all she had taken any sort of approval from the Ministry of Home Affairs in terms of whether at all she had an FCRA registration. We're given to understand that she received foreign contribution, that too without any registration under the FCRA. Now, the details that have been put out as far as those 3 fundraiser campaigns on the Keto platform, starting from April 2020, it is given to understand under three important aspects: help in raising funds for slum dwellers and farmers, relief work for Assam, Bihar and Maharashtra, and help Rana Ayub and her team to help those impacted by COVID-19 in India. Now, these were the 3 campaigns that she had essentially started. An investigation by the Enforcement Directorate basically revealed the fund raised on the online platforms were received in the accounts of her father and sister, and subsequently it was transferred to her personal accounts. In fact, Rana Ayub has been accused of utilizing these funds to create a fixed deposit of about 50 lakh rupees for herself, and also transferred 50 lakh rupees in a new bank account. In fact, not only that, 29 lakh rupees was only used for the relief work. In order to claim more expenses towards relief work, fake bills were submitted by Rana Ayub. That's the allegation that is being leveled. That fake bills were basically utilized. And the bank balances that have now been checked by the Enforcement Directorate in the accounts of Rana Ayub, about 50 lakh rupees in FD were attached. And we are also being told that she apparently illegally raised about 2.69 crore rupees by launching these 3 online campaigns, which she says, which the Enforcement Directorate maintains was done in a fraudulent manner, which essentially means that she had cheated the public.
Yes. Shravan, just a follow-up question. I remember we had earlier confronted Rana Ayub as well. If you could take us through through that conversation as well as to what Rana Ayub had to say when she was confronted by us on these grave allegations that she's facing. All right, we seem to have lost that connection with Shravan, but that's a breaking update coming in. Rana Ayub there facing these grave allegations which are related to the 3 fundraiser campaigns on Keto platform, which was started from April 2020. Through this fundraiser campaign, Rana Ayub-led fundraiser campaigns collected funds amounting to over 2 crore rupees. These funds were related to raising of funds for slum dwellers and farmers, relief work for Assam, Bihar and Maharashtra. So what we are given to understand is that the Enforcement Directorate has filed a prosecution complaint against Rana Ayub under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and this after an FIR was registered which dates back to 7th of September 2021 in the Indrapuram police station of Ghaziabad under various sections of IPC 1860, Information Technology Amendment Act 2008 and Black Money Act as well, in which it was alleged that Rana Ayub illegally acquired funds from general public in the name of charity by launching fundraiser campaign on an online crowdfunding platform Keto, as Shravan was telling us. Shravan is back with us, joining us live. Shravan, once again take us through these allegations that Rana Ayub is facing.
Well, in fact, let's just quickly take our viewers through the details that we are getting from the charges that have been filed by the Enforcement Directorate. Multiple charges that have been levelled against journalist Rana Ayub. Now, it does appear that there were 3 specific campaigns which were started by Rana Ayub. This was post the pandemic, and if I can just take our viewers through the 3 campaigns that were started. One, she called it Help in Raising Funds for Slum Dwellers and Farmers. The second campaign was relief work for Assam, Bihar and Maharashtra. The third one was Help Rana Ayub and her team to help those impacted by COVID-19 in India. Now, a total of 2.69 crore rupees. That's the amount that was raised by Rana Ayub. And these are fundraiser campaigns. It was done on a keto platform. Now, essentially what has happened is that for all these fundraising campaigns, especially if there is a foreign contribution that is coming in, as per the procedure, is you need to get a clearance or FCRA license from the Ministry of Home Affairs. Whether at all Rana Ayub had that, as per the Enforcement Directorate, she had no FCRA clearance, number one. Number two, she was essentially asked to provide the details of the funds that came in and what was it actually utilized for. Whether at all it was utilized for the very purpose that she was seeking those donations for. The Enforcement Director categorically making a point here that it wasn't used for the purpose that she had collected those funds. In fact, the allegation, the grave allegation that has been leveled by the Enforcement Directorate against Rana Ayub is that she has utilized this money raised through these fundraiser campaigns for her own personal work. And if I can just take you through some of the details of the charge sheet that has been filed, and this is what the Enforcement Directorate says. Rana Ayub utilized these funds to create a fixed deposit of about 50 lakh rupees for herself and also transferred about 50 lakh rupees in a new bank account. Enforcement Directorate investigation revealed that only approximate 29 lakh rupees was used for the relief work. So of the 2.69 crore rupees that was raised through these very campaigns, according to the Enforcement Directorate, only about 29 lakh rupees was actually used for the relief work. And what is even more shocking is that when she was basically asked to explain that the money that she has received, how exactly was it utilized and whether at all she has the proof for it, it turns out that in order to claim more expenses towards relief work, fake bills were submitted by Rana Ayub. The allegation here is Rana Ayub has submitted fake bills only to justify the expenses, when it turns out that large part of the money was actually being utilized for her own personal work. Rana Ayub essentially started submitting fake bills. Enforcement Directorate also goes on to say that she illegally raised about 2.69 crore rupees by launching 3 online campaigns in the name of charity by cheating the general public. So what the Enforcement Directorate has done in this particular charge sheet, following the statement that was recorded of Rana Ayub, in fact, she was also stopped from going abroad, primarily because the Enforcement Directorate had also issued a lookout circular against her. It was only after the courts had basically intervened that she was essentially allowed to step out of the country. But going back to the crux of this entire story, now this is a major allegation that has been leveled against Rana Ayub. Whether she is going to respond on this, she has been very vocal on various matters, but the fact of the matter here is that these are very serious allegations that have been leveled against her. If there was nothing wrong that was essentially done by her, then what is going to be very important is that she could have perhaps put out details of the funds that were actually received by her. Whether she was in a position to explain those funds, it turns out from this particular charge sheet, perhaps she hasn't been able to explain or satisfy the agency with regards with whatever proof she has at her disposal.
Well, absolutely. Shravan, stay with us. Our executive editor Niranjan also joining us. Niranjan, one of those serious charges include that over 2 crore rupees that was collected. Why these campaigns? Only 29 lakh was used for the campaign work.
Well, what a scam this is turning out to be, Shravan and Samiksha, because, you know, we have the details of the Enforcement Directorate investigation that Shravan has sent us, and it appears, Shravan, from this investigation, what was collected for the following: help in raising funds for slum dwellers and farmers, one of the excuses used. Second,
Relief work for Assam, Bihar and Maharashtra. Scam. Third issue. Help Rana Ayub and her team to help those impacted by COVID-19 in India. So these were the three campaigns that were launched by this so-called journalist called Rana Ayub, who launched a campaign. Her claim to fame is, taking on the government or anything or anyone who remotely appears to be close to the government. Now, her entire job has been to run down, and in this effort, she's run down the entire country several times, and she tries to position herself as some sort of a messiah. It appears, Shravan, from the details of the investigation, she collected 2 crore 69 lakhs 44,680 rupees from Keto platform from April 2020, and it appears that she actually used 29 lakh rupees, which is roughly about 10.7%. Shravan, 10.7%, which means 90%, almost 90% of the money collected was scammed. She put it into her own account, created a fixed deposit for herself, etc. Shravan.
Well, it's amply clear from the charge sheet that has been filed by the Enforcement Directorate that a large percentage of the funds that were raised by her, at least through three campaigns that she essentially started, large part of it was basically be used for personal expenses. So of the 2.69 crore rupees that she had raised over a period of time in the name of certain campaigns, be it for flood relief or for that matter pandemic, to help those affected because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it turns out that only about 29 lakh rupees, that's the amount, 29 lakh rupees of the 2.69 that she had raised, was actually used for the relief material. But the bigger point here is that if at all there was an intention to actually receive this particular money for these funds, for these campaigns.
बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है साथियों। आज जब हम बीते दशकों की तरफ मुड़कर देखते हैं तो हमारा अनुभव क्या कह रहा है? हमने यहां शांता जी को, धूमल जी को अपनी जिंदगी खपाते देखा है। उनके मुख्यमंत्री काल के वो दिन थे जब हिमाचल के लिए, हर छोटी चीज के लिए, हिमाचल के अधिकार के लिए भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नेताओं को, कार्यकर्ताओं को लेकर के दिल्ली में जाकर के गुहार लगानी पड़ती थी, आंदोलन करने पड़ते थे। कभी बिजली का हक, कभी पानी का हक, तो कभी विकास में हक मिले, भागीदारी मिले। लेकिन तब दिल्ली में सुनवाई नहीं होती थी। हिमाचल की मांगे, हिमाचल की फाइलें भटकती रहती थी। इसलिए चंबा जैसे प्राकृतिक, सांस्कृतिक और आस्था के इतने समृद्ध क्षेत्र विकास की दौड़ में पीछे रह गए। 75 साल बाद मुझे एक एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट के रूप में उस पर स्पेशल ध्यान केंद्रित करना पड़ा, क्योंकि मैं इसके सामर्थ्य से परिचित था। दोस्तों, सुविधाओं के अभाव में आपके यहां रहने वालों का जीवन मुश्किल था। बाहर से आने वाले पर्यटक भला यहां कैसे पहुंच पाते? और हमारे यहां चंबा का गीत अभी जयराम जी याद कर रहे थे, जम्मू एदी राहें चंबा कितना अकदूर। ये उस स्थिति को बताने के लिए काफी है। यानी यहां आने की उत्सुकता तो बहुत थी, लेकिन यहां पहुंचना इतना आसान नहीं था। और जब ये जयराम जी ने बताया केरल की बेटी दिव्या के विषय में, देविका ने कैसे, और एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत का सपना ऐसे ही पूरा होता है। चंबा का लोकगीत, केरल की धरती पर जिस बच्ची ने कभी हिमाचल नहीं देखा, कभी जिसने हिंदी भाषा से नाता नहीं रहा, वो बच्ची पूरे मनोयोग से जब चंबा के गीत गाती हो तो चंबा का सामर्थ्य कितना है उसका हमें सबूत मिल जाता है दोस्तों। और मैं चंबा का आभारी हूं कि उन्होंने बेटी देविका की इतनी तारीफ की, इतनी वाहवाही की कि पूरे देश में एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत का मैसेज चला गया। एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत के प्रति चंबा के लोगों की भावना देखकर मैं भी अभिभूत हो गया था। साथियों, आज हिमाचल के पास डबल इंजन की सरकार की ताकत है। इस डबल इंजन की ताकत ने हिमाचल के विकास को डबल तेजी से आगे बढ़ाया है। पहले सरकारें सुविधाएं वहां देती थी जहां काम आसान होता था, जहां मेहनत कम लगती थी और राजनीतिक लाभ ज्यादा मिल जाता था। इसलिए जो दुर्गम क्षेत्र हैं, जनजातीय क्षेत्र हैं, वहां सुविधाएं सबसे अंत में पहुंचती थी, जबकि सबसे ज्यादा जरूरत तो इन्हीं क्षेत्रों को थी। और इससे क्या हुआ? सड़क हो, बिजली हो, पानी हो, ऐसी हर सुविधा के लिए पहाड़ी क्षेत्रों, जनजातीय क्षेत्रों का नंबर सबसे अंत में आता था। लेकिन डबल इंजन की सरकार का काम, हमारा काम करने का तरीका ही अलग है। हमारी प्राथमिकताएं हैं लोगों के जीवन को आसान बनाना। इसलिए हम जनजातीय क्षेत्रों, पहाड़ी क्षेत्रों पर सबसे अधिक बल दे रहे हैं। साथियों, पहले पहाड़ों में गैस कनेक्शन गिने चुने लोगों के पास ही होता था। मुझे याद है हमारे धूमल जी जब मुख्यमंत्री थे तो घरों में बिजली का चूल्हा कैसे पहुंचाऊं, इसलिए रात भर सोचते रहते थे, योजनाएं बनाते थे। उन समस्याओं का समाधान हमने आकर के कर दिया दोस्तों। लेकिन डबल इंजन की सरकार ने इसे घर घर पहुंचा दिया। पानी के नल जिनको घरों में होते थे, उनके लिए तो ये माना जाता था कि बड़े रहीशी लोग होंगे, इनकी राजनीतिक पहुंच होगी, पैसे भी बहुत होंगे, इसलिए घर तक नल आया है, वो जमाना था। लेकिन आज देखिए, हर घर जल अभियान के तहत हिमाचल में सबसे पहले चंबा, लाहौल स्पीति और किन्नौर में ही 100% नल से जल कवरेज हुआ है। इन्हीं जिलों के लिए पहले की सरकारें कहती थी कि दुर्गम है, इसलिए विकास नहीं हो पाता। ये सिर्फ पानी पहुंचाया, बहनों को सुविधा मिली, इतने तक सीमित नहीं है, बल्कि शुद्ध पेयजल से नवजात बच्चों का जीवन भी बच रहा है। इसी प्रकार गर्भवती बहनें हो या छोटे छोटे बच्चे, इनके टीकाकरण के लिए कितनी मुश्किलें पहले होती थी। आज गांव के स्वास्थ्य केंद्र में ही हर प्रकार के टीके उपलब्ध है। आशा और आंगनवाड़ी से जुड़ी बहनें घर घर जाकर सुविधाएं दे रही है। गर्भवती माताओं को मातृ वंदना योजना के तहत हजारों रुपए दिए जा रहे हैं। आज आयुष्मान भारत योजना के तहत 5 लाख रुपए का मुफ्त इलाज मिल रहा है। इस योजना के सबसे बड़े लाभार्थी भी वही लोग हैं जो कभी अस्पताल तक नहीं जा पाते थे। और हमारी माताएं बहनें, कितनी भी गंभीर बीमारी हो, कितनी पीड़ा होती हो, घर में पता तक नहीं चलने देती थी कि मैं बीमार हूं। घर के सब लोगों के लिए जितनी सेवा कर सकती थी वो निरंतर करती थी। उसके मन में एक बोझ रहता था कि अगर बच्चों को, परिवार को पता चल जाएगा कि मेरी बीमारी है तो वो मुझे अस्पताल में ले जाएंगे। अस्पताल महंगे होते हैं, खर्च बहुत होता है, हमारे संतान कर्ज में डूब जाएंगे। और वो सोचती थी कि मैं पीड़ा तो सहन कर लूंगी लेकिन बच्चों को कर्ज में नहीं डूबने दूंगी, और वो सहन करती थी। माताएं बहनें, आपका ये दर्द, आपका ये पीड़ा अगर ये आपका बेटा नहीं समझेगा तो कौन समझेगा? और इसलिए आयुष्मान भारत योजना के तहत 5 लाख रुपए तक परिवारों को मुफ्त में आरोग्य की व्यवस्था मिले, इसका प्रबंध कर दिया भाइयों। साथियों, सड़कों के अभाव में तो इस क्षेत्र में पढ़ाई भी मुश्किल थी। अनेक बेटियों को तो स्कूल इसलिए छुड़वा दिया जाता था क्योंकि दूर पैदल जाना पड़ता था। इसलिए आज एक तरह हम गांव के पास ही अच्छी डिस्पेंसरी बना रहे हैं, वेलनेस सेंटर बना रहे हैं, तो वहीं पर जिले में मेडिकल कॉलेज भी खोल रहे हैं। साहब, जब हम वैक्सीनेशन का अभियान चला रहे थे तो मेरे दिल में साफ था कि हिमाचल में टूरिज्म को कोई रुकावट ना आए, इसलिए सबसे पहले हिमाचल का वैक्सीनेशन का काम तेजी से बढ़ाना चाहिए। और राज्यों में बाद में किया, हिमाचल में वैक्सीनेशन सबसे पहले पूरा किया। और मैं जयराम जी और उनकी सरकार को बधाई देता हूं कि आपकी जिंदगी के लिए उन्होंने रात दिन मेहनत की भाइयों। आज डबल इंजन सरकार की कोशिश ये भी है कि हर गांव तक पक्की सड़क तेजी से पहुंचे। आप सोचिए, 2014 से पहले के 8 वर्षों में हिमाचल में 7,000 किलोमीटर ग्रामीण सड़कें बनाई गई थी। आप बताएंगे, मैं बोलूंगा, याद रखोगे? 7,000 किलोमीटर सड़कें कितनी? 7,000 कितनी? आज और उस समय खर्च कितना किया था? 1800 करोड़, 1,800 करोड़ खर्च किया। अब देखिए 7,000, और यहां देखिए हमने 8 वर्ष में, ये मैं आजादी के बाद कहता हूं 7,000, हमने 8 वर्ष में अब तक 12,000 किलोमीटर लंबी गांव की सड़कें बनाई हैं और 5,000 करोड़ रुपए की लागत से आपके जीवन को बदलने के लिए जी जान से कोशिश की है भाई। यानी पहले के मुकाबले करीब करीब 2 गुने से ज्यादा सड़कें बनी है। 2 गुने से भी ज्यादा हिमाचल की सड़कों पर निवेश किया गया है। हिमाचल के सैकड़ों गांव पहली बार सड़कों से जुड़े हैं। आज जो योजना शुरू हुई है, इससे भी 3,000 किलोमीटर की सड़कें गांवों में नई बनेगी। इसका सबसे अधिक लाभ चंबा और दूसरे जनजातीय क्षेत्रों के गांवों में होगा। चंबा के अनेक क्षेत्रों को अटल टनल का भी बहुत अधिक लाभ मिल रहा है। इससे एक क्षेत्र साल भर बाकी देश से जुड़े रहे हैं। इसी प्रकार केंद्र सरकार की विशेष पर्वतमाला योजना आपने बजट में घोषित किया था, देखा होगा। इसके तहत चंबा सहित कांगड़ा, बिलासपुर, सिरमौर, कुल्लू जिलों में रोपवे का नेटवर्क भी बनाया जा रहा है। इससे स्थानीय लोगों और पर्यटकों दोनों को बहुत लाभ मिलेगा, बहुत सुविधा होगी। भाइयों बहनों, बीते 8 वर्षों में आपने मुझे जो सेवा करने का मौका दिया है, आपके एक सेवक के रूप में, हिमाचल को बहुत सी परियोजनाएं देने का मुझे सौभाग्य मिला और मेरे जीवन में एक संतोष की अनुभूति होती है। अब जयराम जी दिल्ली आते हैं, पहले जाते थे लोग तो क्यों जाते थे? अर्जी लेकर के जाते थे, जरा कुछ करो, कुछ दे दो, भगवान तुम्हारा भला करेगा। वो हाल कर दिया था दिल्ली वालों ने। आज अगर हिमाचल के मुख्यमंत्री मेरे पास आते हैं तो साथ में बड़ी खुशी के साथ कभी चंबा का रुमाल ले आते हैं, कभी चंबा का थाल का उपहार लेकर के आते हैं और साथ सारे जानकारी देते हैं कि मोदी जी आज तो मैं खुशखबरी लेकर आया हूं, फलाना प्रोजेक्ट हमने पूरा कर दिया, नए फलाने प्रोजेक्ट पर हमने काम शुरू कर दिया। अब हिमाचल वाले हक मांगने के लिए गिड़गिड़ाते नहीं हैं, अब दिल्ली में वो हक जताते हैं और हमें आदेश भी देते हैं। और आप सभी जनता जनार्दन का आदेश, आपका आदेश, और आप ही मेरा हाईकमांड है। आपका आदेश मैं अपना सौभाग्य समझता हूं भाइयों बहनों। इसलिए आप लोगों की सेवा करने का आनंद भी कुछ और होता है, ऊर्जा भी कुछ और होती है। साथियों, आज जितने विकास कार्यों का उपहार हिमाचल को एक दौर में मिलता है, उतना पहले की सरकारों के समय कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता था। पिछले 8 वर्षों में पूरे देश के पहाड़ी क्षेत्रों में, दुर्गम इलाकों में, जनजातीय क्षेत्रों में तेज विकास का एक महायज्ञ चल रहा है। इसका लाभ हिमाचल के चंबा को मिल रहा है, पांगी भरमौर को मिल रहा है, छोटा बड़ा भंगाल, गिरिपार, किन्नौर और लाहौल स्पीति जैसे क्षेत्रों को मिल रहा है। पिछले वर्ष तो चंबा ने विकास में सुधार के मामले में देश के 100 से अधिक आकांक्षी जिलों में दूसरा स्थान प्राप्त कर लिया। मैं चंबा को विशेष बधाई देता हूं। यहां के सरकारी मुलाजिम को भी बहुत बधाई देता हूं कि उन्होंने देश के सामने इतना बड़ा काम करके दिखाया है। कुछ समय पहले ही हमारी सरकार ने एक और अहम फैसला लिया है। सिरमौर के गिरिपार क्षेत्र के हाटी समुदाय को जनजातीय दर्जा देने का फैसला ये दिखाता है कि हमारी सरकार जनजातीय लोगों के विकास के लिए उनको कितनी प्राथमिकता देती है। साथियों, लंबे समय तक जिन्होंने दिल्ली और हिमाचल में सरकारें चलाई, उनको हमारे इन दुर्गम क्षेत्रों की याद तभी आती थी जब चुनाव आते थे। लेकिन डबल इंजन सरकार दिन रात 24 घंटे 7 दिन आपकी सेवा में जुटी हुई है। कोरोना का मुश्किल समय आया तो आपको परेशानी ना हो, इसके लिए पूरी कोशिश की। आज ग्रामीण परिवारों, गरीब परिवारों को मुफ्त राशन दिया जा रहा है। दुनिया के लोग जब सुनते हैं तो उनको अजूबा लगता है कि 80 करोड़ लोग 1.5-2 साल से भारत सरकार किसी के घर का चूल्हा नहीं बुझने देती। हर घर का चूल्हा जलता है, मुफ्त में अनाज पहुंचाया जाता है ताकि मेरा कोई गरीब परिवार भूखा न सो जाए। भाइयों बहनों, सबको समय पर टीका लगे, इसकी भी तेजी से व्यवस्था की। हिमाचल प्रदेश को प्राथमिकता भी दी गई है और इसके लिए मैं आंगनबाड़ी बहनें, आशा बहनें, स्वास्थ्य विभाग के कर्मियों को भी अभिनंदन करता हूं। जयराम जी के नेतृत्व में आपने हिमाचल को कोविड टीकाकरण में, उस मामले में देश में अग्रणी रखा। साथियों, विकास के ऐसे काम तभी होते हैं जब सेवा भाव स्वभाव बन जाता है, जब सेवा भाव संकल्प बन जाता है, जब सेवा भाव साधना बन जाती है, तब जाकर के ये सारे काम होते हैं। पहाड़ी और जनजातीय क्षेत्रों में रोजगार एक और बड़ी चुनौती होती है। इसलिए यहां की जो ताकत है उसी को जनता की ताकत बनाने का प्रयास हम कर रहे हैं। जनजातीय क्षेत्रों में जल और जंगल की संपदा अनमोल है। चंबा तो देश के उन क्षेत्रों में है जहां जल विद्युत के निर्माण की शुरुआत हुई थी। आज जिन प्रोजेक्ट का शिलान्यास हुआ है, इससे बिजली उत्पादन के क्षेत्र में चंबा की हिमाचल की हिस्सेदारी बढ़ने वाली है। यहां जो बिजली पैदा होगी, इससे चंबा को, हिमाचल को सैकड़ों करोड़ रुपए की कमाई होगी। यहां के नौजवानों को रोजगार के अवसर मिलेंगे। पिछले साल भी 4 बड़े जल विद्युत प्रोजेक्ट का लोकार्पण और शिलान्यास करने का अवसर मुझे मिला था। कुछ दिन पहले बिलासपुर में जो हाइड्रो इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज शुरू हुआ है, उससे भी हिमाचल के युवाओं को लाभ होने वाला है। यहां की एक और ताकत बागवानी है, कला है, शिल्प है। चंबा के फूल, चंबा का चूक, राजमहल का मदा, चंबा चप्पल, चंबा थाल और पांगी की ठांगी, ऐसे अनेक उत्पाद ये हमारी धरोहर है। मैं स्वयं सहायता समूह की महिलाओं को भी, उनकी भी सराहना करूंगा, क्योंकि वे वोकल फॉर लोकल यानी उत्पादों को बढ़ावा देने के सरकार के प्रयासों को बल दे रही है। 1 डिस्ट्रिक्ट 1 प्रोडक्ट योजना के तहत भी ऐसे उत्पादों को बढ़ावा दिया जा रहा है। मेरा खुद भी प्रयास रहता है कि विदेशी मेहमानों को ये चीजें भेंट करूं, ताकि पूरी दुनिया में हिमाचल का नाम बढ़े, दुनिया में ज्यादा देश के लोग हिमाचल के उत्पादों के बारे में जाने। मैं ऐसी चीजें ले जाता हूं, किसी को स्मृति चिन्ह देना है तो बस मेरे हिमाचल के गांव से बनी हुई चीजें देता हूं। भाई और बहनों, डबल इंजन सरकार अपनी संस्कृति, विरासत और आस्था को सम्मान देने वाली सरकार है। चंबा सहित पूरा हिमाचल आस्था और धरोहरों की धरती है। ये तो देवभूमि है। एक और जहां पवित्र मणिमहेश धाम है, वहीं 84 मंदिर स्थल भरमौर में है। मणिमहेश यात्रा हो या फिर शिमला, किन्नौर, कुल्ली से गुजरने वाली श्रीखंड महादेव की यात्रा हो, दुनिया भर में भोलेनाथ के भक्तों के लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। अभी जयराम जी उल्लेख कर रहे थे, अभी दशहरा के दिन मुझे कुल्लू में अंतर्राष्ट्रीय दशहरा उत्सव में शरीक होने का अवसर मिला। कुछ दिन पहले दशहरा के मेले में था और आज मिजर मेले की धरती पर आने का सौभाग्य मिला है। एक तरफ ये धरोहरें हैं, दूसरी तरफ डलहौजी, खजियार जैसे अनेक दर्शनीय पर्यटन स्थल है। ये विकसित हिमाचल की ताकत बनने वाले हैं। इस ताकत को सिर्फ और सिर्फ डबल इंजन की सरकार ही पहचानती है। इसलिए इस बार हिमाचल मन बना चुका है। हिमाचल इस बार पुराना रिवाज बदलेगा। हिमाचल इस बार नई परंपरा बनाएगा। साथियों, मैं जब यहां मैदान में पहुंचा, मैं सब देख रहा था। मैं जानता हूं हिमाचल में इतना, हर गली मोहल्ले को जानता हूं। पूरे राज्य की कोई रैली करे ना, पूरे राज्य की, तो भी हिमाचल में इतनी बड़ी रैली करनी है तो आंखों पानी आ जाता था। तो मैंने पूछा मुख्यमंत्री जी को कि पूरे राज्य की रैली है क्या, देख करके ही? उन्होंने कहा नहीं, ये तो चंबा जिले के लोग आए हैं। साथियों, ये रैली नहीं है, ये हिमाचल के उज्जवल भविष्य का संकल्प मैं देख रहा हूं। मैं आज यहां पर एक रैली नहीं, हिमाचल के उज्जवल भविष्य का सामर्थ्य देख रहा हूं। और मैं आपके इस सामर्थ्य का पुजारी हूं। मैं आपके इस संकल्प के पीछे दीवार की तरह खड़ा रहूंगा, ये मैं विश्वास देने आया हूं दोस्तों। शक्ति बनकर के साथ रहूंगा, ये भरोसा देने आया हूं। इतना विशाल कार्यक्रम करने के लिए और शानदार जानदार कार्यक्रम करने के लिए, और त्योहारों के दिन है, ऐसे त्योहार के दिनों में माताओं बहनों का निकलना कितना कठिन होता है, फिर भी इतनी माताएं बहनें मुझे आशीर्वाद देने आई, हम सबको आशीर्वाद देने आई। इससे बड़ा जीवन का सौभाग्य क्या हो सकता है। मैं फिर एक बार आप सबको ये अनेक विकास के प्रकल्प, और अब तो वंदे भारत ट्रेन में दिल्ली तक की गति तेज हो रही है, तब आपको बहुत बहुत बधाई और शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। दोनों हाथ ऊपर करके मेरे साथ बोलिए, भारत माता की, भारत माता की, भारत माता की, भारत माता की, भारत माता की। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
बहुत आभार माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी आपका। एक बार पुनः जोरदार तालियों के साथ अपने अपने स्थानों पर खड़े होकर आइए, लहराती हुई तालियों के साथ हर्षनाद करते हुए राष्ट्र धर्म के परम अनुयायी का अभिनंदन करें, आभार जताएं। बहुत आभार माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी आपका। हजारों करोड़ रुपए की विकास योजनाओं के उपहार हम हिमाचल वासियों को सौंपने के लिए अपने सामर्थ्य से संपूर्ण भारत के संकल्पों को पूरा करने के लिए हम सब हिमाचल वाले हृदय से आभारी हैं आपके। विकास के स्वर्णिम लेख से स्वर्णिम हिमाचल के निर्माण को नई गति, नई ऊर्जा देने।
Viewers, PM Modi in Himachal Pradesh saying that BJP revamped Himachal Pradesh and also saying, making very, very important points, that he has flagged off the country's fourth Vande Bharat Express train from Una railway station in Himachal Pradesh. This is the Prime Minister's 9th visit to Himachal Pradesh in the last 5 years. And he also said that BJP's double-engine government made domestic gas connections available for every home. Let's now have a look at the top headlines we are tracking right now. No end to the 10th month-long hijab row. Top court pronounces split verdict on hijab. Split verdict on hijab in light of divergence of opinion. Karnataka High Court order remains in full force. No stay on hijab ban whatsoever.
बेपर्दा होकर बाजारों में गलियों में न घूमें। इससे चूंकि हालात बिगड़ते हैं, आवारगी बढ़ती है इससे।
Samajwadi Party MP sparks fresh row, says no hijab means misbehavior for women. Fresh trouble for Rana Ayub. ED News Titans files prosecution complaint against Rana Ayub. Amidst a simple row, Uddhav faction alleges foul play by EC. Is Uddhav nervous ahead of bypolls? Viewers, we are live and breaking and you're watching India's #1 news channel, Republic TV. I'm Shivangi Shukla. Let's go ahead to our top story right now. Now, following his controversial tirade against Prime Minister Modi, Aam Aadmi Party top leader Gopal Italia arrived at the NCW office after he was summoned. And backing the controversial leader openly, Aam Aadmi Party leaders have gathered
at the NCW office in protest. NCW chief Rekha Sharma has now hit out at Aam Aadmi Party, saying that the threat tactics will not work. Let's listen in.
हमने इनसे एक्सप्लेनेशन के लिए एक समन किया था, लेकिन इनके आने से के साथ साथ आपके जो बहुत सारे वर्कर हैं टोपी और बैनर्स के साथ यहाँ आए और मेरे जो डोर है, हमारा जो गेट है बाहर, उसको पुश करने की और एंटर करने की लीगली कोशिश की गई। बहुत मुश्किल से हमने उनको रोका और बाद में पुलिस को भी इसीलिए बुलाया गया क्योंकि हमें लगता था कि ये किसी भी प्रकार की हानि पहुंचा सकते हैं, बिल्डिंग को भी और लोगों को भी। समनिंग करी थी एक सिर्फ क्वेश्चन आंसर के लिए, उसमें बहुत ऐसा नहीं था कि कुछ, लेकिन ये इन्होंने बड़ी प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट कर दी और यहाँ आकर भी ये लगातार ट्वीट कर रहे हैं जिससे लोग इंस्टिगेट हों और ज़्यादा लोग पहुँचें और यहाँ लॉ एंड ऑर्डर की सिचुएशन क्रिएट हो। पहली बात तो इन्होंने डिनाई किया कि मुझे कोई सम्मन नहीं मिला, जबकि इनका जो रिप्लाई है वो पहले से तैयार है उसी एड्रेस पे, जिस एड्रेस पे हमने भेजा था वैसे ही। दूसरी बात, इन्होंने डिनाई किया कि उस वीडियो में मैं हूँ ही नहीं, लेकिन जब ये जवाब दे रहे हैं तो उसमें इन्होंने माना है कि इन्होंने वो ट्वीट किया था, जबकि पहले ये कह रहे थे कि वो जो ट्वीट में जो वीडियो है वो मैं नहीं हूँ। तो ये दोनों चीज़ें ही आपस में, जो भी इनका स्टेटमेंट है और जो रिटन स्टेटमेंट है, दोनों मैच नहीं करते। अभी तक इन्होंने प्रॉपर जवाब नहीं दिया। मैंने पुलिस को भी बोला है कि इनके अगेंस्ट एक्शन लिया जाए क्योंकि ये एक लॉ एंड ऑर्डर को खराब करने की सिचुएशन क्रिएट कर रहे थे।
All right, viewers, let's go straight to Madhurima. Madhurima Mishra is there. Madhurima, we know that a huge ruckus is being created outside the NCW office there, and a crowd of Aam Aadmi Party workers have gathered. Madhurima, give us the quick update from there.
Well, yes, because Mr. Gopal Italia was summoned by the NCW, but as and when the entire interrogation began, the scene at the NCW office changed completely. Ms. Rekha Sharma has also come forward and expressed her apprehensions about the kind of atmosphere that was created on the brim of the office here in the national capital's Jashnola area. We could see in these visuals and that we are getting that these workers created a lot of ruckus outside the office. Rekha Sharma even went out and tweeted to the police and even to the PMO, tagging
Madhurima, I'm sorry I have to interrupt you.
Needs to be taken care of.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to go across to Vishal Pandey as well. He's with
this is one thing that has come.
जो वीडियो वायरल हो रहे हैं, देखिए वीडियोस की अगर बात है तो इस देश में हर आदमी का कुछ न कुछ वीडियो मिलता रहेगा। मुद्दा वीडियो है ही नहीं, मुद्दा है किसी भी तरीके से पाटीदारों को रोकना, पाटीदारों के लीडरों को खड़ा नहीं होने देना। अगर पाटीदार समुदाय से आने वाला एक साधारण सा लड़का अध्यक्ष बन जाता है तो बीजेपी को चुभन हो रही है। बात वीडियो की होती तो हर पार्टी में हर लोगों ने कुछ न कुछ कभी न कभी बोला है, और ये बात आज क्यों आ रही है? अगर मुद्दा वीडियो का ही है, जो 10 साल पहले की बात है, आज क्यों आ रही है? तो सीधी सी बात है कि बीजेपी पाटीदारों से इतनी नफरत कर रही है और नफरत में इतनी अंधी हो चुकी है कि वो मुझ जैसे युवा को देख नहीं पाती है अध्यक्ष के रूप में, या आम आदमी पार्टी को मेरे लीडरशिप में आगे बढ़ते हुए देख नहीं पा रहे। इसलिए इस टाइप के अनाप शनाप से नोटिस भेजे जा रहे हैं, प्रताड़ित कर रहे हैं, FIR कर रहे हैं। तो कुल मिला के मामला जो है वो पाटीदार विरोधी उनकी मानसिकता प्रकट हो चुकी है। पिछले दिनों में हमने देखा कि हार्दिक पटेल के साथ भी अन्याय हो रहा है। अभी वो बीजेपी में गए हैं, बीजेपी ने पूरे प्रदेश में कुछ यात्रा निकाली है, लेकिन इस यात्रा में हार्दिक को कहीं पे रखा नहीं गया है। ये दिखा रहा है कि पाटीदार समाज से आने वाले हर युवा को ये भाजपा पार्टी रोकना चाहती है। चाहे नोटिस भेज दो, चाहे उसके खिलाफ कुछ प्रोपेगेंडा चलाओ, कैसे करके भी ये लोग जो है बीजेपी के लोग वो पाटीदारों की नफरत दिखा रहे हैं, और हम इनके सामने लड़ेंगे और जीत के दिखाएंगे। देखिए, मैंने पहले भी बताया कि वीडियो मुद्दा ही नहीं है। बोलने को तो सब लोगों ने सब कुछ बोला है, आज क्यों आ रहा है? खुद प्रधानमंत्री जी ने भी बोला था, काफी चीजें तब के प्रधानमंत्री के बारे में बोला गया था, तब के कांग्रेस पार्टी के चीफ के बारे में बोला गया था, इतनी भद्दी बातें बोली गई थी। बोलने को तो सब बोले, बात वीडियो नहीं है, बात वीडियो में क्या बोला गया है वो नहीं है। बात यह है कि बीजेपी को पाटीदारों की लीडरशिप हजम नहीं होती है, पाटीदारों से वो नफरत कर रहे हैं और इसलिए बीजेपी कुछ भी आरोप लगा ले, जाहिर सी बात है कि वो हर पाटीदार युवा को रोकना चाहते हैं आगे बढ़ने से। और इसी अनुक्रम में आज उन्होंने मुझे यहाँ पे इनविटेशन दिया है, मैं आया हूँ, अब देखते बात करते हैं।
सही है, क्लिप है, आपका क्या हुआ है?
जब वीडियो मुद्दा ही नहीं है फिर क्या सही है, क्या गलत है, क्या बोला है? मुद्दा ये है कि ये पाटीदारों से विरोध कर रहे हैं। ये लोग सीधे से जाहिर तौर पे पटेल समाज के विरोधी हैं और विरोध में ही ये लोग अनाप शनाप कार्रवाई करते हैं। अगर उनका विरोध मेरे से है तो मुझे गोली मार दो, मुझे फांसी पे लटका दो, लेकिन आप
All right, viewers, let's go ahead to Maharashtra now, where the Uddhav faction has now penned down a letter to the CEC alleging bias, favoritism and foul play while deciding and distributing of the symbols. So this is the update we're getting from Maharashtra right now. Viewers, remember that the symbols and the names were decided for the bypolls which were coming up. But both the Uddhav faction and the Shinde faction have got names and symbols. But right now, what we're learning so far is the politics over the bypolls still continues. Right now, the Uddhav faction has penned down a letter to the CEC and they are saying that there's bias, favoritism and foul play while deciding and distribution of symbols. That's the news we're getting for you right now. And remember that a short while back, the symbol of Shiv Sena and the name was frozen and both the factions were asked to pick a symbol and a name. Right now, Uddhav has now written to the Election Commission on symbol and party name. That's a big news we're tracking for you right now on Republic TV. And this is happening as more controversies emerging before the bypolls, where we are also learning is that the nominee of the Uddhav camp, her resignation is also pending in front of the BMC. So we are getting a lot of details on this big story which is coming in from Maharashtra. Alisha is joining me. Alisha, take us to the latest controversy which has erupted from Maharashtra.
Well, Shivangi, it's a letter from Uddhav Thackeray to Chief Election Commissioner and also Election Commission clearly alleging that it's a bias.
Clearly alleging that it's a bias, favoritism and a foul play while deciding and distribution of symbol. So there comes a letter from Uddhav Thackeray clearly mentioning that while allocating the symbol or the party name, there is some of the favoritism that has been done by Election Commission, and also there was no time sought has been given to Uddhav Thackeray even to give a response over the petition that was filed by Eknath Shinde for the upcoming Andheri East bypolls. So as per the symbol that was freezed by Election Commission, that is bow and arrow, which was reserved for Shiv Sena. But what has been mentioned in the letter that has been given to CEC, which mentions that while the petition that was filed by the petitioner, that is Eknath Shinde, Election Commission without taking a time has sought for the documents related to the party and to prove that they are the real Shiv Sena and the majority. So there was no time that was also given to Uddhav Thackeray. Not only this, when the documents was given, there was another letter that was came in from Election Commission asking, clearly mentioning that the bow and arrow symbol has been reserved and it's a freeze. So there should know within a short period of time whether Uddhav Thackeray need to submit the new fresh elections name and the symbol as well. So this is a letter from Uddhav Thackeray which clearly alleges that it's a biased decision that has been taken by Election Commission, which is where they have asked for a reply over the same.
All right, thank you, Alisha, for getting us all the details, latest in Maharashtra politics. Let's move ahead and see what else is making news from across India. Supreme Court delivered a split verdict on the hijab controversy in view of the divergence in opinion. Justice Hemant Gupta upheld the Karnataka High Court order, while Justice Dhulia stated that it's a matter of choice.
In view of the split verdict on hijab by Supreme Court on hijab ban, the apex court has directed the matter to be placed before the Chief Justice of India, Justice UU Lalit, for appropriate directions. Karnataka Education Minister B.C. Nagesh welcomed the Supreme Court verdict and stated that the ban on hijab to continue in classrooms across Karnataka.
We welcome whatever the judgment we have received today from the Supreme Court. But we had expected a better judgment because, as you know, that throughout the world, women are demanding not to wear hijab, not to wear burqa.
Amid the split verdict of a Supreme Court on a hijab controversy, NCP leader Majid Memon has now said that the matter should be taken to the parliament to resolve. CPIM leader Brinda Karat has now called out the Karnataka government for imposing ban on wearing hijab. She has also added that the country should wait for CGI Lalit to deliver the verdict.
Those young women who have been deprived already the right to education, the right to choice. Both points which were very well put, I think, in the judgment of Justice Dhulia, which are extremely relevant, not only in the Karnataka case, but generally as far as women's rights are concerned. Both these issues are still there. And therefore, what is going to happen to those young women who have not been able to give their exams? That is a very critical question which I think the Chief Justice will look at, I'm sure, when he decides what is to be done in the case of this split verdict.
Controversial MP Shafiqur Rahman has now made another controversial comment after the split verdict on hijab ban. He has stated that hijab is mandatory for women in public.
समाज पर बुरा असर पड़ेगा और इसीलिए इस्लाम ने समाज के अंदर बहरहाल ये जब लड़कियां जवान होने लगे तो उस वक्त हिजाब के लिए कहा गया कि चूँकि बेपर्दा रहने से और उधर लड़के भी जवान होते हैं तो समाज का माहौल ख़राब होता.
Viewers, we continue to be live and breaking. Fresh trouble for Rana Ayub. ED News Titans files prosecution complaint against Rana Ayub. Stay tuned to Republic TV.
$11,000 placements last year. At Amity, we are committed to nurturing passionate, hardworking and proactive professionals.
गोपाल भाई वापस से हम ऐसा सर चेस करने की बात नहीं है. चेस करने की आप मुझे हैकल मत करिए. सुनिए, चेस कौन कर रहा है? वीडियो के बारे में आपने एक धर्म के ऊपर भी कई सारे जो शब्द बोले हैं, तो क्या आप उससे सहमति रखते हैं? चेस करने की बात
2021, the Indian economy was all geared up.
We are headed for greatness as a nation. We will be a superpower. If there's something that I want to see in our lifetime, it is to have our best living years as a citizen of a superpower.
Now there's a new goal, Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
This is the place where the crime took place. Now what you see over here, there is at least a 5 feet deep burial ground where the woman was buried. One of the victims was chopped to pieces, 56 pieces, and then she was buried in a pit which was made beforehand itself.
Time to once again action our destiny. Focus on Mission Superpower. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
गोपाल भाई वापस से हम ऐसा सर चेस करने की बात नहीं है, चेस करने की आप मुझे हैकल मत करिए। सुनिए चेस कौन कर रहा है, वीडियो के बारे में आपने एक धर्म के ऊपर भी कई सारे जो शब्द बोले हैं, तो क्या आप उससे सहमति रखते हैं? चेस करने की बात
From an emerging economy, now the fifth largest economy in the world, India has seen exponential growth in the last 8 years. The preferred investment destination of the world now has a goal: mission superpower. Union ministers, bankers, investors, policymakers, thinkers. Republic Media Network proudly presents the second edition of the India Economic Summit this October 14th only.
This is the place where the crime took place. Now, what you see over here, there is at least a 5 feet deep burial ground where the woman was buried. One of the victims was chopped to pieces, 56 pieces, and then she was buried in a pit which was made beforehand itself.
The world supermarket. The world is ours for the taking. Witness the India growth story. Republic Media Network brings you India's biggest economic summit.
This is the place where the crime took place. Now, what you see over here, there is at least a 5 feet deep burial ground where the
Viewers, a big story that came in today. The Supreme Court delivered a split verdict on a bunch of pleas challenging the Karnataka High Court's judgment upholding the ban on students wearing hijab in Karnataka's educational institutions. But Justice Hemant Gupta ruled in favor of dismissing the appeals against a High Court verdict. Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia held that wearing hijab is a matter of choice. Many reactions coming in. Let's listen in.
Today, there is a judgment pronounced by the Honorable Supreme Court. It is a split verdict, and one Honorable Judge has allowed the appeals, and another Honorable Judge dismissed the appeals. Two opinions are there. So, under these circumstances, there is no clear-cut decisions in respect of the issue of the hijab case is concerned. So, then it has to be referred to according to my opinion, it has to be referred to the constitutional bench, and the constitutional bench has to take the note of every subject and give the correct judgment in respect of the hijab. If it is not taken by the constitutional bench, the confusion will go on. Confusion will continue regarding the hijab issue is concerned. So there must be a clarity on judgment. For that purpose, it should be referred to the constitutional bench. That is only the way.
As a democratic government, we welcome whatever the judgment we have received today from the Supreme Court. But we had expected a better judgment because, as you know that, throughout the world, women are demanding not to wear hijab, not to wear burqa. But there is a split judgment in the Supreme Court today. So whatever the Karnataka High Court had given the order, that is valid as on today. So we are going to follow the rules which are framed according to Karnataka Education Act in Karnataka. Definitely 3 bench Supreme Court is going to
of Karnataka, Ashwath Narayana. Sir, we see that it's a split verdict of the hijab from the Supreme Court, where we see that now it's further escalated to the Chief Justice of India. How do you see this?
The state of Karnataka had taken a decision to have a uniform policy of having a uniform in the schools and colleges, irrespective of caste, creed and religion, to bring the uniformity among the children. It was a government rule which was implemented way back in the year 1995. The same has been upheld.
All right, viewers, some big breaking news coming in from the national capital. We are learning so far is that Aam Aadmi Party leader Gopal Italia has been detained. Viewers, the Delhi police has detained Gopal Italia. Big news coming in, viewers, right now. Remember, a short while back, he was summoned by the NCW, where Aam Aadmi Party workers created a ruckus outside the office. But we're getting some news right now, and what we're learning so far, Aam Aadmi Party's Gopal Italia has now been detained. This is a very, very big development coming in. After, in the past few days, we saw that the Aam Aadmi Party leader had abused PM Modi, and he had also called him Neech. That's what he had said. He was also confronted by Republic TV, where he denied using such terms, and he tried to heckle Republic TV reporter Priyanka there. But right now, we are also learning Delhi police has detained Aam Aadmi Party's Gopal Italia. Big news coming in right now, viewers. It's a massive development. Remember that Gujarat Aam Aadmi Party President Gopal Italia was summoned by the NCW, and a notice was served to Italia. It was highlighted that the indecent words used by him was also an insult to women of our country. But right now, the big update is coming in is that Delhi police has now detained Aam Aadmi Party's Gopal Italia. And now he was summoned by the NCW just a short while back. And what we're learning so far is that now he has been detained. All right, Vishal Pandey is with us. Vishal, this is a very big development. What are we learning?
जी बिल्कुल, देखिए बहुत बड़ी खबर है ये कि जो गोपाल इटालिया गुजरात के आम आदमी पार्टी के अध्यक्ष हैं, उनको दिल्ली पुलिस ने डिटेन कर लिया। इस वक्त हमने आपको तस्वीरें दिखाई थी कि किस तरीके से जो है दिल्ली पुलिस जब यहाँ पहुंची, उसके बाद आम आदमी पार्टी के जो कार्यकर्ता पहुंचे थे वो धीरे धीरे यहाँ से हटना शुरू कर दिया उन्होंने। लेकिन रेखा शर्मा जो है वो राष्ट्रीय महिला आयोग की जो अध्यक्ष हैं, उन्होंने साफ तौर पर कहा था कि उनकी जान को भी खतरा था। इस तरीके से यहाँ पर कार्यकर्ता जो है वो सैकड़ों की तादाद में पहुंचे हुए थे, और राष्ट्रीय महिला आयोग के ऑफिस के बाहर इस तरीके से कार्यकर्ताओं का पहुंचना ये अपने आप में एक विरोधाभास करने वाली बात है। इसी को देखते हुए दिल्ली पुलिस की एक टीम पहुंची, और थोड़ी देर पहले जो है गोपाल इटालिया को यहां से डिटेन कर लिया गया है, और नजदीकी थाने में जो है वो उनको अभी लेके जाया गया है। मैं आपको ये भी बता दूं कि इस पूरे मसले पर अरविंद केजरीवाल, जो दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री हैं और आम आदमी पार्टी के मुखिया हैं, उन्होंने भी अपनी प्रतिक्रिया जाहिर की, और ट्वीट के माध्यम से उन्होंने ये कहा कि पूरी की पूरी बीजेपी जो है वो गोपाल इटालिया के पीछे क्यों पड़ गई है। साथ ही साथ मैं आपको बता दूं, गोपाल इटालिया ने भी ट्वीट कर ये बताया कि जो एनसीडब्ल्यू है वो उनको धमकी दे रही है जेल में डालने की, पूरे पटेल समाज को जो है कहीं ना कहीं धमकाने की कोशिश की जा रही है। तो ये तमाम ट्वीट्स का जो सिलसिला है वार पलटवार का, ये जारी हो चुका है। एनसीडब्ल्यू की तरफ से भी कई ट्वीट्स किए गए हैं, उनमें उन्होंने फोटो खींच के डाला और ट्वीट कर ये कहा कि जिस तरीके से आम आदमी पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता पहुंचे हुए हैं हमारे ऑफिस के बाहर, वो गलत है, वैसे नहीं पहुंचना चाहिए था। रेखा शर्मा ने भी अपने ट्विटर हैंडल से ट्वीट कर तमाम जानकारी दी थी, और इस वक्त की खबर यही है कि गोपाल इटालिया को जो है वो दिल्ली पुलिस